Welcome to the weekend must watch on Intercut, the weekly show going through all the movies, the TV, the entertainment, the Tonys, the box office, all that good stuff that people just can't cut away from. I'm your co-host Arturo Surita, and joining me, still dealing with his teenage emotions alongside with me, it's Zachary Shevich.
What's going on, buddy? Good to be back. We had a couple weeks off. It's been a chaotic start to summer, but it's big business at the box office back
Finally.
in a big way after a couple weeks of panic about what's happening. What is the state of movie going? Pixar bringing people back to the movies.
Theaters still open near you?
Theaters
'Cause
still open. None of them
I saw
closed.
some articles. It sounded like they were donezo. The
Hey,
same people who wrote them back
we'll
in
talk about
2016.
Alamo. We'll see what Alamo's future is.
It is actually the complete opposite, right? The news that we're going to be
Right?
talking about later is so scary that while it does protect theaters, it's going to protect them in a way that people have not seen since like when did they enact that law? The 50s? Like there is actual laws that have changed things for studios to be able to fully invest in theaters and make sure that they're not closed. But like Zach said, we've got a bunch of good movies now to look back on with big franchises, sequels, even some originals. And like Zach said, it's been some very low weeks, but it is the first movie to hit over 100 mil in the box office since I think Barbie from last year. That came out in July. So we have dealt with a whole year of nothing breaking that, what is it, six-figure number? Or is more than that technically, I guess, because 100 is not a mil. Seven. It's a lot. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of zeros. But the thing is, like, I think we were so adjusted in remembering the years of 2015 and 16 when things were hitting like a bill at the box office. We did not have every streaming service that we have now. It was Netflix and that's it. Disney Plus did not exist until the pandemic. And that is like the rival. Apple TV Plus did not exist. I think that there's a new metric that we need to do, and that's something I want to discuss with you later about like how we really look at the box office. But other than that, before we jump into the movies, any updates with you, man? I see you got a big balloon over there. It looks like sadness, but it looks like joy at the same time.
Exactly right. It's twinged with both. Yeah, it was my birthday. Now the balloon just flew away, but
Anything
it was
special?
my birthday last week. Not just the usual. I mean, as we get older, the birthdays become less and less remarkable, right? Like maybe the existential crises hit a little bit harder. I'm slowly aging out of the demographics that I associate myself with, and firmly launching into my 30s. But like it's another year around the sun, and I can't really complain that much about it.
What did you say in the movie?
I got my fancy new headphones though.
Oh snap! What'd you get?
The JBL Tours. I
like
like JBL. Yeah, I like the headphones a lot. I've got Bluetooth, so I'm going wireless, and I got an ambiance mode on, so it's a little bit of like noise level monitoring. It's really good. It's good.
Ladies and gentlemen, the wire will never be pulled again. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm free. No wires on me.
Oh, that's nice. That's good. I've tested out too many JBLs, but I know that they've always been up there in that quality. So that's decent.
Yeah.
I might need to check those out.
I'll let you test them next time we see each other.
Sick. Yeah, I've been able to catch up a lot on the festival, so we'll be covering Tribeca this time around. I was able to do it virtually out of New York, and then we also had the Tony, so Zach's going to be sprinkling in some more discussions in terms of the plays that he's been seeing, because it was a stack Tonys this year, and there are a lot of plays that I really want to go see, because a lot of them, I was recognizing them when we were watching the Tonys. That's an actor. That person's from Glow. That boy hasn't done something in a while. Now he's creeping people up on stage. There are a lot of really good performances that are on stage right now. So I'm going to be excited to talk about that one as well. But let's kick things off with the movie that everyone had been anticipating, a Pixar sequel that I think is above all of the other Pixar sequels, except Toy Story, bro. I don't know what your list is, but to me, Inside Out 2 is up there along with all of the other ones, except for Toy Story 3, 2, and 4, I think is how I would rank them. I don't have my list fully on me right now, but
I'm trying to think about like all the Pixar sequels out there, right? Because if we're just separating Pixar originals and Pixar sequels, like Pixar sequels are pretty hit or miss. Like, yes, the Toy Story franchise has always been pretty exceptional. Even if I have some misgivings with Toy Story 4, I still enjoyed it. Of the other
Decent.
Pixar sequels, Finding Dory is coming to mind is one that was
No.
like solid. Nah, I mean it's
Um,
definitely a
a sequel.
downgrade from its original.
Yeah.
Look, I am like I have a history of being more down on Inside Out than most people. I'm pretty mixed on the original. I would go so far as to say that this is maybe the only Pixar sequel I can think of that's an improvement on its original.
Uh, I'm not arguing with you there. As I put my little list together right here off of someone's that I just cloned online, so don't mind the scores there. Unless it's mine, I don't know if it's my scores that pop up here. I think firmly I have Cars 2 at the bottom. Then
Yeah,
Lightyear came out. I don't know if you're counting that, but I am counting that because that is
sure.
technically one. I'm putting Lightyear
Yeah.
right there. I'm putting Finding Dory at 7. Incredibles 2 right there.
Ooh,
Monsters Universe. Oh, you know
really?
what? I never had Cars 3 in this list, so I'm gonna have to put Cars 3.
A little bit further
Yeah,
down.
I'm gonna have to put it right there. And then now that we're talking about Inside Out 2, I think I'm gonna put Inside Out 2, like I said, right at the cusp. So if you're counting the
Nice.
Toy Stories all as one, I don't believe it beats the Toy Story. We've had 10 Pixar sequels. That's insane now that I'm looking at the list. 10 whopping Pixar sequels. That's like more than a company sometimes has in releases. Yeah, I'm going Toy Story 3, Toy Story 2, and Toy Story 4 is the top 3 Pixar sequels. But Inside Out 2 mops all the other ones. It is far and away better than the Cars movies. I love Finding
Mhm.
Nemo. You're right. It is way better than Finding Dory. Lightyears, Incredibles 2, and I'm not even the biggest hater of Monsters University, but I would say that there is a massive gap between 5 and 4. I think this is probably one of the best Pixar sequels outside of the toys. Easily.
Absolutely, yeah.
You don't like Inside Out.
Not a whole lot. I mean, look, I don't think it's awful for sure. Like it's not like a artless Pixar movie. My
Uh-huh.
qualms with Inside Out are more on the specifics of how it handles the whole idea of how like brains work and emotions work, and whereas I feel like a lot of the best Pixar films are taking a simple idea and expanding my mind about it. Like, you think about like the inner lives of toys, or whatever, or like a rat in the kitchen or something like that, and just
Mhm.
really blowing it out. I feel like the first Inside Out movie is a depiction of brains that doesn't really resonate with me, and how it kind of like really streamlines and simplifies a lot of things. um the relationship between the the emotions in their head and the actions of the character and who's in control of what never really seemed like particularly defined in these movies. But what I think really works about Inside Out 2 for me is the whole central metaphor. It just feels a lot more solid, feels a lot more rooted in like an understanding of the brain, because what they add to the pot in Inside Out 2 is this whole idea of some new emotions that are triggered through growth. I don't really think that's how emotions work, but whatever. And the idea of the oncoming anxiety that Riley faces in
Yeah.
her pending puberty.
The new emotions are
Anxiety
good.
really is, yeah, anxiety really is the star of the show here,
Easily.
voiced by Maya Hawke. It's another thing that I find a little strange about this franchise, is that like it is supposed to be about all these different emotions, but it really is just about like joy and sadness, and now it's really just about joy and anxiety. Um, I think though the whole idea that they're posing here is like the structure of the story about like anxiety is this thing that upends your sense of self and can replace it. It like resonates. It's a smart metaphor, and I think the metaphorical aspects of this film worked a bit better for me than they did in the first one.
I'm the opposite, but not hating on 2. I think the first one, because of the way that it simplified it and it had the rules, I thought it worked
Mhm,
interestingly as a way to have, like, little kids be like, "Why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling?" I is it I thought it was a good way to showcase that many times when you're feeling the emotions that you have, they're not necessarily negative. Rewatching
mhm,
it again, I was like, "Damn, that's such a profound thing to have disgust, fear, anger not be things that are bad, but things that are warnings for you." And I thought that that was a
mhm.
beautiful way for them to go about it, especially when kids may not be able to describe what they're feeling inside. I'm not going to disagree with you. Is it like scientific? No, there are a lot of rules that they make up that feel very weird. But I felt it more in the second one, more so because in the first one, remember the whole issue is that sadness is touching things and it turns blue. Oh no.
Right.
No, the second one, this girl's touching everything. So it's like, to me, not even the science of it, the lore of the Pixar movie itself, I felt from what they established in the first one was no longer kept in the second one. I agree with you. You know, where were the emotions being kept in the meantime? You didn't see them in the parents in the first go around, but now they were popping out here. There's little things here and there that are a little bit of an issue, but they didn't bother me too much. I do agree with you though. While I don't think it's up there with the first Inside Out, these new emotions were kind of decent. I thought having Paul Walter as embarrassment. They said that they brought him in, and all this man did was come up with that they would give him like a sheet of stuff to say, and then he would say other words. He would just have to say it as like onomatopoeias. That was fantastic. He killed it there. You have another one in, what is it? I think she was, what was Io? Envy, sorry. I don't know how much her character added to anything else, but her voice acting was crazy. She got to go all over the place, you know?
Yeah. I mean, she's delightful in it. I don't really know how necessary her character is. Like, I don't know if they even like, if there's any real moments of envy even in the movie, but
no,
sure.
it was just her liking something. But I agree with you. It ends up becoming something where it's like joy and replace sadness now with it being anxiety. But the beauty of it being anxiety is, like you were saying, Maya Hawke not only plays it to a T. Seeing them both do press, Maya Hawke and Amy Poehler. Hey, yo, you can call Nepo Baby all you want. They mixed this girl up in a pot, and her parents created probably one of the best Nepo Babies we got right now. I know a lot of people see Nepo Baby
as an
insult.
Nepo Baby quote, right?
What was her Nepo Baby quote?
It was really good. It was something like, she's fine not deserving it and doing it anyway. It's like very self-aware.
That's all we ask, bro. That's the biggest issue, right? Because it's like, what are you arguing against? A truth? Nepotism, if I'm not mistaken, I guess Google the word. It just means that you are related to somebody within the industry. To not acknowledge that, I think, is false. It's not taking away from your skills, but it's denying the privilege that you have of having somebody there. That's it.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's just like the acknowledgement of the fact that you have a little bit more familiarity and perhaps the chance to go through an open door that not everybody else has.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it doesn't like, it's not an indictment of your moral character or something.
And Maya, you are one of the better ones out there. You are literally somehow the artistry of your dad and the badassness of, not that Ethan isn't, but Uma Thurman. Like, she is able to play with both. She's able to be cool, and then the embodiments of awkwardness in this movie. Seeing them do the press run, it's so funny to see Amy Poehler sometimes be one up by Maya Hawke. Like, Amy Poehler would say something so profound, and then Maya Hawke would come in here and then just like do some crazy elongated speech. You see it in the movie as well. There's a moment where anxiety comes in and tells her to like zip it. And I'm like, oh, okay. She's finally met her match over here. But the beauty of the movie is that I think when you like really pay attention to it, Joy causes a lot of the anxiety because Joy has all these expectations that she wants to put on what's her name, Riley. You end up with a lot of things that causes Riley to, you know, spiral into a loop. In this movie, Riley is now 13. She is a teenager. We see why they chose to not have it be a boy, because a teenager who is a girl at 13 is going through different things than what a boy would be going through, especially here because she wants to go into this hockey camp and she needs to decide, as I follow this, you know, passion of sports, am I going to remain with my friends who are no longer going to be there? They're going to be going somewhere else. They're not going to be competing to the level that I'm competing in. And should I be switching to this new friend group? And I love how anxiety, they describe it as while fear is focused on what's in front of you, anxiety is scared about what might, could, may never happen. And I'm like, okay, yeah, that is exactly something that kids at that age need to understand. I thought that was good.
And I think sometimes when it comes to my qualms with what this franchise is I'm brushing up against the like kids movie aspects of it, because these movies are incredible tools at communicating these
Yep. Good
hard to
point.
grasp ideas in simple packages, you know, like where it doesn't necessarily withstand my like adult scrutiny of the inner workings of, you know, the brain and emotions. That's fine, it doesn't need to do that. It's a Pixar movie, and ultimately I think the emotionality really works in this film. You know, there's been a lot of discourse about all the animated films that are depicting different types of panic attacks, but I think this movie does really get to the paralyzing nature of that type of anxiety. I think
Yeah.
the way that they end up using the whole idea of like imagination turned against you is so beautifully done.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's just a lot of like really smart, clever touches. Um, this film is not directed by the same person who directed the first Inside Out film. Pete Docter was the person who made Inside Out 1. Pete Docter is now on the like Pixar
Head honcho.
on editorial board or whatever it is, the overseeing committee.
Yeah.
And
New
Kelsey
Lasseter.
Mann directs this movie. What did you think about the switch from Pete Docter to Kelsey Mann? And do you miss Pete Docter, who is like one of the Pixar legends?
Yeah, he is the GOAT. I mean, you look back at what Pete Docter's done. He obviously has a hand that is able to do a lot more. And I think what we're saying with all of the other emotions kind of feeling like they're put to the side, that wasn't able to really be approached at here. We did have 2 recasts while they kept Lewis Black with
Yeah.
Fantastic in it. They kept, who else did they keep? Leslie Knope, Phyllis, but
Yes.
they replaced Minnie Kaling, which I know some people don't really care for, but I thought the change from Bill Hader was a pretty big one because Bill Hader added a lot to the writing in the first
Tony
one.
Hale.
Yeah, because Tony Hale comes in. Tony Hale's already Forky. I don't know why this man's coming in to do another voice, but that means that Pixar trusts him, so they were able to bring him in, and he was able to do what they needed him to do. But Bill Hader did a lot of the writing in the first one. He was able to contribute a bit to it, and I think that was because he was working with Pete Docter, and he knows how to embrace that stuff. Kelsey did a really good job. Specifically because this man knows anxiety. If you listen to his interviews, you're like, yeah, you probably can cover this emotion specifically better than Pete Docter can. But when it came to bringing all the other ones in, I don't know. Again, I bring up the idea that when you establish the rules in Inside Out 1, Inside Out 2 now has to deal with all of the boundaries that have been created there. So he is also kind of stuck in this, sandbox that has its limitations. I think he did a really good job for what he had to work with. So I'd give him the thumbs up. Not as good as Pete Docter though, but he did a pretty good job. It's also his directorial debut. So I'm curious to see what else he's able to bring to other Pixar stuff or maybe even other animated studios. Because at one point I think he said he was going to leave, and then they were like, "We have an idea for you. We've been watching you around the office. We think you could do Inside Out 2. Let us know what you got." And hey, like I said, compared to all the other ones, I put it up there as one of the best non-Toy Story Pixar sequels. So shout out to him. There were some animated things that they did here, and I'm curious your thoughts on it. They did some like, I call it Dora the Explorer Bluey homages, some Final Fantasy playing with 2D animation. Rewatching the first one when they go into Abstract Island, I think that still works on a rewatch. This felt like stuff that they should have done back in 2015. I feel like it's aged. After Spider-Verse,
Yeah,
I know it's cliche to say it, but after Spider-Verse, I'm sorry. I felt like it was a little dated. It's like someone trying to break the fourth wall, going like, "Bruh, we're in a third Deadpool now." I don't know how you felt about that or other aspects of the movie where they tried to do some different things.
Yeah, I mean, it when they get to that sequence of the movie that you're talking about, it does one of the things that I dread in animated movies, where I feel like the plot just stops for several minutes so they can introduce you to a series of characters. It's just like, who's this guy? What's that person doing? For like a long sequence, and I just felt like most of the jokes in that had been, as you said, done by Spider-Verse or done by Wreck-It Ralph, or it just kind of it's the joke where you like spot what they're doing instantly, but they still have to go through the mechanics of telling you the joke for the next minute.
There was one when he stares at the wall though. It was kind of funny though.
Yeah, and granted, like these are kids movies, so they're probably like new to the audience that this is intended for. But yeah, I mean, I think that there's something to be said about this movie in some places feeling a little bit less fresh, a little bit less like you're getting something that's, like completely singular, and more like, you know, a retread not only of Inside Out but of other jokes from other places.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know. While I really appreciate the anxiety metaphor of it all, I'm not sure. There's I'm still not blown away by this franchise, although I know for like a generation below us, I kind of feel like this is sort of their Toy Story in some senses. Like this is something that they're likely introduced to as kids, and now they're growing up with it as Riley is growing up with it too. And
Yeah.
given the huge box office returns of this movie, we're probably getting an Inside Out 3.
I don't see. Yeah. So I want to ask you that, but I agree with your point. They did the same thing for Monsters University, right? All
Right.
right. Whoever saw it here is not grown up. Same thing with Toy Story. Pixar just knows how to do that. Like, I think they're finishing these movies in a year. They're just like, now we got to put them in the vault. Wait till the kids grow up so that we can maximize. They
Mhm.
get that Top Gun Maverick box office numbers there. Where would you want to see it go? Would you want them to switch elsewhere? Does it need to remain with Riley? I like that they've been bouncing into other people's minds. There's been those theories. Why does everybody else, including your friends, have kind of similar emotions gendered
Mhm.
that look the same, but Riley's have always been different? Is it just I don't know, an animated artistic approach? Do you see them doing something else with it? I feel Inside Out 2 was missing a lot of things. It feels like several scripts into one. They bring up a
Mhm.
lot of stuff and it never comes back.
Yeah, I mean, I know there are certain elements that feel teased that some corners of the internet are really helpful for. I really love that tweet that's been going around where what is it? Getting queer baited by Disney is a little bit like losing at chess to a dog. Like there's only so far that I think Disney's going to go in certain ways with this
I mean, they,
character,
they did report it, yeah.
even if certain things feel kind of like intimated. Um, I don't know. I mean, I think it would feel weird to jump into somebody else's head, and part of the whole thing with like sticking with characters you love is like you stick with the voice performances, and you know, Amy Poehler's joy is so integral to this franchise. Phyllis as
Yeah.
sadness is like that. I don't know. It's a kind of casting that is so perfect that I don't know if you can like replicate that in a completely new form. So
Lewis
if we
Black
want
too,
to
dude.
stick with
This man is
right,
funny.
yeah, yeah. So if we want to stick with these people, I think we got to stick with Riley. And if we're sticking with the whole idea of like growing up with the audience, like I'm okay with the next one being like Riley's emotions as she gets to college. I don't know what like comes into play,
Interesting.
what new emotions they want to introduce. Maybe we're finally going
Yeah.
to get our June Squibb as nostalgia in a little bit more of this movie.
She was great, yeah.
But
Because I
I don't
think the
know.
first one was 11. She's now 13, so it was only 2 years. So they could do 15. Play the
Yeah.
Taylor Swift song in the intro credits or something like that. But I agree. I also wouldn't mind a time jump, having her go to college. They had even teased in the interviews of maybe her like jumping to be a parent. They do that bluey thing, and now it's them, Riley having to deal with her own emotions for like a new kid or something. But I don't know. I'm interested to see where it goes. In terms of all Pixar in general, especially with sequels, is there any property that you would like to see them do a follow up to? I see some people, I think it's Gustav saying Wally 2. I know people have been waiting for that one. Do you have any other one? And why is Cars 3 at the top of your sequel list?
It's definitely no more cars. That's probably the least likely sequel I want to see. To be honest, no, there's no franchise that I'm eager to return to. I feel like I've gotten everything out of all their different franchises that I could want. Like it maybe you can convince me something in the Monsters Inc. universe, although I'm not a big
We've done
fan
it
of
already.
Monsters University. Yeah, so
And they
like
got 2
I don't know.
seasons of the show. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't even watch that. So, I don't know. Oh, wait, was that mid pandemic? Maybe I did watch a little of it. Anyway,
Yeah, we did. That's what I'm saying. You don't remember it because it's not that memorable.
yeah, exactly. I don't know. I just want to see them do more original stuff. I still feel like the best Pixar movie of the past, I don't know how many years, is probably Turning Red.
And that's another one, dude. A lot of people are like, I think it's even here. One of the top like reviews is, "Where's horny? Where's this?" Some of y'all be talking about suicide and some other stuff. It's a kids movie, y'all. Y'all
It's
try
a
a little,
kids movie.
y'all try a little too hard on Letterbox.com, but that movie was made. It was Turning Red. I like that
Right.
there's a Turning Red Easter egg in here because it's like, yeah, that movie already covered even more of the awkwardness that this had. So I'd be curious to see how they combine those two, if anything. I think we're gonna get to a point where they're gonna interlock. If you're getting so many sequels, there's only a matter of time before you combine universes, combine some of the franchises together. But we shall see. Inside Out 2 out in theaters now. I think it's definitely worth the watch. I hear that they're releasing an HDR version. I felt like the Dolby was already that they're releasing something where the colors pop out more than they ever have. I saw it in Dolby. It looked gorgeous. So I'm very curious to see what this next release is going to be. Because I remember the first Inside Out 1, we didn't even know what HDR was at that point. They were barely introducing it, and they were really pushing the color spectrum there. So I can only imagine how much more outstanding it looks here. But I would recommend it. I think it's a decent sequel that really embodies the idea of having these characters and these emotions move on to the next level of what would happen as our main character grows up. Inside Out 2 out in theaters now. Let us know your favorite Pixar sequels down below. What you would have as number one. I'd be surprised if it's not a Toy Story movie. I'm gonna be honest. I can see this one maybe if you don't like the toys, but this is the only one that's come close out of everything else that's been out there, in my opinion. But sticking to franchises, Bad Boys Ride or Die. Where do you stand on this franchise, Zach, that has been going on since the 90s?
Yeah, I mean, I have not historically been like a huge Michael Bay appreciator, but I feel like the exception that I make, aside from Ambulance more recently, because that was my shit, is this franchise. I really do love the Bad Boys movies, and the dynamic between Will Smith and Martin Lawrence is among the best buddy cop dynamics that we've got. They just have like an ease with each other and play the foil so well, and it matches with Bay's just like extravagance and vulgar auteurism in a way that is just kind of like beautiful trash to me. You know, this is my kind of turn my brain off action movie ideal, particularly Bad Boys 2. I really enjoy. I'm eager to return to the franchise because I didn't catch the last Bad Boys movie, which was like the last big movie before the pandemic broke
Don't even
out.
tell me, bro. Yeah.
And with Tribeca going on, I didn't get to catch this latest one either. But tell
Oh,
me,
you haven't seen it yet?
Yeah, I have not
Oh,
seen it. Tell me if this is going to live up to my memories.
well, like you were saying, Bad Boys, I think, is a fascinating movie because right now that we're catching the Axel F. Eddie Murphy, what's his name,
Yeah.
coming to Netflix soon.
Beverly Hills Cop.
Thank you. That's also a Jerry Bruckheimer production. Everything's a Jerry Bruckheimer production. We're probably a Jerry Bruckheimer production. But what he did there was pioneer, you know, like this gritty cop, having it be a black comedian come out and be able to really just improv and make a really funny series there. He then did it again here with Bad Boys, but he was able to bring Michael Bay, who, like you said, was able to bring in his Bayisms. I think Bad Boys 2 is solid. I rewatched all of them. You are not mistaken, my friend. Bad Boys 2 is a freaking classic. It is one of my favorite action movies. The highway scene is incredible.
Highway scene. Yeah, it's among the best chases ever. Just the absurdity, the recklessness to launch those cars.
Just rolling down.
It's incredible.
I see people talk about like, oh, you know, the Bad Boys they're kind of okay. No. First and foremost, Will Smith, when they were rolling out his box office numbers of that run he did from the 90s all the way to the 2000s, yeah, you could ignore the After Earths and all that stuff. We were not looking at Rotten Tomatoes ratings here. This man had some of the most insane numbers. And I know that Bad Boys 1 was where Michael Bay told him, yo, you're the Fresh Prince. Martin's coming off Martin. Both of you together can become actual movie stars. I mean, from there, we don't need to talk about Will Smith because obviously he had a bunch of classics. But Martin Lawrence also had a streak because he is my favorite of the two here. And I do think they work really well off of each other. And I think each movie gives one more to do. But the run that he had from, let me try to pull all the other ones over here. He says he's working on another Blue Streak. I don't know if you've ever seen Blue Streak. Classic.
Yeah.
My favorite, without a doubt, is National Security. This is one of Martin Lawrence's best movies, dude. I miss this Martin Lawrence so much.
Yeah.
It was just him firing on all cylinders, and he has that in 1 and 2.
Yeah, this is one of those movies that, like, I know if I rewatched it today, there'd be like several things that don't hold up about it, but I still have such a soft spot for National Security.
All those things will make me laugh, without a doubt. I think that he is one of the best comedians that we've had. I love his stand-up. I think both of them have classic shows. Bad Boys 2, to me, is still the epitome of this franchise. Like we said, not just a car chase scene. There's another, I don't know if you've rewatched this one in a while. They do a second car chase scene in Bad Boys 2 where they replace the cars with something else. It holds up. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, yeah.
When they brought it back right after all the years, like you were mentioning, right before the pandemic hit, and released Bad Boys for Life, even though it's the third, but they called it four. I was like, it feels a little goofy. It felt a little bit like a cash grab, but I didn't mind it. I thought it was good to see the boys come back. Martin was definitely not as chipper as he used to be in the other two. Will was definitely trying to bank in on bringing on another franchise. It was good for what it was, but specifically, I think the standout was the directors. These two boys who ended up doing the Batgirl movie that we may never see again, but they came back to do not just the third one, but the fourth one. I think the fourth one is better than the third one. It is them actually coming in, bringing a lot of stuff from the franchise, stuff that we've seen in one, a lot of stuff that we've seen in two, especially, and kind of tying a bow with it. I think it works really well, and it really feels like them saying to the fans, yo, you're either ride or you die. From what we're going to do from this point forward is try to recreate the Fast and Furious franchise. Everyone says that these last two have tried to do a Vin Diesel move. But in reality, when you look at 1 and 2, they gave Vin Diesel the blueprint. They were border hopping to different places. They were doing these big elaborate set pieces. And then, Fast and Furious was able to become what Fast and Furious is. This is them kind of reminding you like, no, we are that. We kind of gave them that. And now we're going to come in and hone it in. This is like them saying you're either going to follow the crazy moves we're about to make the same way that Fast and Furious went from a street racing movie to like, I don't know, what would you say, 5, 6? Whenever they jump the shark for the Fast series, they're kind of setting you up here because there is a set piece in here where they're now in the sky dangling for their lives. And I'm like, okay, we have entered definitely the blockbuster, full on, maybe unbelievable superhero phase of the series. But as long as they keep one thing intact, that's all that's going to matter. It's their relationship. Martin is funnier in this one than he was in the last one. Will is going on a tour of a comeback. We discussed a lot of stuff after a live ceremony event that happened where he was, a comedian and slapping had occurred. There is a stand-up comedian and slapping that occurs in this movie. It is very meta, Zach. I think if you rewatch all the other ones, but even more so, you keep up on these two, you can see that this is a redemption arc for Will Smith. While Martin has always been the one in the series who has gone through like wanting to retire, he's the one that has anxiety. Will's character of Mike Lowry now is having the panic attacks. He has now had more things to lose, I will say. And it kind of correlates to Will Smith realizing, yo, I had a lot to lose. I don't want to spoil the scene. I'm not going to lie. You may not agree with it. I am sure a lot of people would be like, I don't think he's apologized enough. It kind of works in the way that he sets up this, like, I can't even call it an apology tour, right? Because he's not apologizing. He's almost calling it his redemption tour. He's going, I'm still Big Willie. What are you going to do? Bad boys, bad boys. It worked for me, dude. It is over the top. It is not competing with Bad Boys 2. But I am very curious to see how they're going to go all in because this is very much setting up for so many sequels to come, dude. There's so many sequels. That's why the title is Ride or Die. You riding with us or you dying with us? I'm in. I liked it.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said about Will Smith returning to the familiarity of like this like somewhat iconic character, at least iconic franchise, in the wake of Slap, right? Like, I believe this is the first film that he filmed
in theaters.
Slap.
Well, Emancipation,
yeah, but Emancipation was already in the can before the Slap occurred.
Gotcha. And that didn't get theatrical either.
Exactly. Yeah. And like we're coming back to a place where he's reminding us why we love him as a movie star, and he is like he is a genuine movie star. He's not a replaceable asset. There's few people who can do what he does. I do hope that he will take some chances, though. Just he's been, aside from being like an iconic movie star, he's also somewhat known for his conservatism in his choices, in turning down Django Unchained, turning down The Matrix.
Bro. It's crazy.
Yeah, not working with some of these potentially interesting filmmakers who could elevate what he does or find something new. I get why your first move post something like the Slap, where there was so much like anger and bloodlust and like an outsized amount of it. Like I had my issues with it, but I did like it was overboard. Absolutely.
He could have killed him.
Like I get returning to the safety of a film like this because it's so good, and if they're just going to continue making them, and you're promising me that it's just as entertaining as it's been, then I'm excited for it. But I do hope that he also has the interest to challenge himself and take on some interesting movies. And we got an announcement for the release date of the next Jordan Peele movie, and I saw some people talking about like how cool would it be to see how cool would it be, nothing confirmed, to see what Jordan Peele would do with an actor like Will Smith.
Oh my word, stop, that'd be crazy. Yeah, because Jordan Peele's got the cowboy doc that he's doing, but yeah, he did say 2026 can't come here fast enough. That would be good. I would like that. I mean, Jordan Peele has said I'm sticking to black actors, and it would be cool to have someone at the caliber of Will Smith, because no offense to Daniel Kaluuya, even in Us with Lupita Nyong'o, Will Smith is Will Smith. This man transcends Hollywood. This is the blockbuster boy right here. I like you. I agree. The slap, just the fact that you could say those words and you know exactly what the event is, was a big deal. But I have said that there's going to be a redemption arc. Listening to the interviews for the last Bad Boys, it was interesting. Him saying, I'm stuck being Will Smith and I wish I could break out of this and the mold that people see me in. And maybe he's at that trajectory that he needs, because now this is him as his redemption arc, him as the bad boy Will Smith who can do anything he wants. He's on YouTube jumping off of freaking skydiving off in the Grand Canyon and stuff. I like the way that he used this to be able to vent about what he's been feeling. I like when artists use art. He said he's back in the booth recording another album. Which also, speaking of, Joyner Lucas is in this movie. It took me a while. I was like, who is that? Because Joyner had him on his song. It was the first time Will had recorded something. I completely forgot about that.
Same.
And he said he encouraged him to go back and now do another album. So I think we're going to be getting a lot more Will Smith. I know they're working on that I Am Legend reboot. What would you like to see? Because to me, I do think the King Richards, the Pursuit of Happinesses, that was him trying to take a little bit of that turn. Are you like, do you want an Uncut Gems? Is that what you're asking?
Well, yeah, no, I would like to see him do something like that. I would like to see him embrace. I mean,
Hancock's funny, bro. Like you said,
Hancock's
that's one.
Great. Hancock's great. I'm not trying to
Marvel would never.
Hancock, but no, yeah, like I'd like to see him play a bad guy. Like he's somebody who's really insisted on being the hero in so many of his movies.
Well, he did 2022 Academy Award.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
No, I agree with you. I do. I think that would be cool.
And the thing is, like, because he is so charismatic, I think sometimes when you can strip away that charisma, it forces him to make really interesting choices. I think it might have been on Hot Ones, might have been somewhere else, where he said he thinks the best movie he's done is Pursuit of Happiness, and it really pushed him as an actor. I just would like to see him challenge himself. I'd like to see, even though you'll never, I don't know if you'll ever look at him and not at least see Will Smith a little bit. I'd like it to not just be like so obviously Will Smith showing up, if that makes any sense.
I'm excited to see what he's got in store. I would highly recommend catching the Bad Boys movies. This new one is a good addition to it, and I'm curious to see where they're going to take it. Hey, all I got to say is if this is competing with the Fast series, bring me back Rush Hour, bro. I want more Rush Hour movies alongside with it. Bring them all back. Bad Boys, Ride or Die in theaters. I think it's worth the watch, but definitely once it's out at home, definitely catch it. Very fun.
Yeah, so I only had time to go see one of these movies in theaters, so I ended up not seeing Bad Boys, Ride or Die, but I did get to see our next film, and I'm not sure I made the right call.
Tell them about it while I go get the thing that they gave me.
So The Watchers, it's a new horror film. It is starring Dakota Fanning as a young woman who gets stranded in the middle of the woods and then finds shelter in a mysterious cabin of sorts, where some strangers await the Watchers to come and watch them at night. It's a mysterious kind of folk horror, and it comes intriguingly from director Ishana Night Shyamalan. No, I did not misspeak. It is M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, and it makes a lot of sense when you see this movie, because this feels a lot like a film written and directed by somebody who grew up being read Lady in the Water and stuff like that. Like
don't do it like that, bro.
it's got that folk horror vibe. It's got the unsettling nature that M. Night has delivered in all of his films, and it's got, you know, this sort of like twisty kind of reveal to it that kind of flips the movie on its head in some ways, but I don't know if she yet has the effectiveness of some of her father's better work.
Of course not, bro. Of course not. Yeah, I know that a lot
Yeah,
of
I mean
people say
that's
that.
that's no shame, right? Like M. Night is a genius.
So I do think a part of this movie is her discussing being in the shadow of her father.
Mm-hmm.
But the man is also producer on the movie. And it's the reason, you know, we're talking about Nepo babies. But you know what Nepo spells backwards is open. And maybe if you're open enough to hear what these kids have to say, I would argue that the idea of the Watchers is a metaphorical thing about, you know, like Cabin in the Woods, where that got really meta of, is every horror character doing what the horror audience wants? I feel like this is her as a director knowing, okay, my daughter's had all these, or my father's had all these expectations, right? You hear M. Night, you automatically know that the movie's going to end with a
Big
twist.
Yeah.
I think she knows what the family name carries. M.
Right.
Night. I'm glad you agree with me. You know, some people try to talk smack. M. Night's a genius, bro. M. Night is a...
He doesn't always deliver, but when he delivers,
you know,
and he's always interesting. That's the thing, is like I will take an M. Night miss over many other directors' misses,
except for The Happening. But I do agree with you for sure. I think Happening is ridiculous.
Airbender's probably in that quality too.
You know, the only thing is because I don't have that love for Airbender, so I didn't get hurt.
I don't either.
I didn't get hurt, but I know it's atrocious. You know, you have a man who began with a movie that people don't realize was his first in Wide Awake, right? Like more of a studio movie. And then in that comes in, and I believe it's Sixth Sense is the follow-up, right? And then Unbreakable, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So in doing the Sixth Sense, I mean, that's it. Like, you don't create something this freaking good and then expect for that to not follow you for the rest of your lives, right? Everybody knows, if I'm not mistaken, the Time magazine, when they called him the next Spielberg, the worst thing that could have happened to him. Worst thing that could have happened to him. At that point, they put so much pressure on this man that from The Sixth Sense to Unbreakable, which redefined superhero movies before we even had a Marvel or anything to really have to you know, Upen to kind of subvert. Then Signs. He had all of these back-to-back classics that
you could retire after that and be a legend.
I like The Village too, bro. I'd argue for The Village. I think it's decent. You're not a fan?
That's actually the one classic that I haven't seen, so I'll let you know.
Oh, okay. I'm very curious your thoughts on it. You don't know nothing. Like,
no,
you don't even
know.
I
I know.
Oh, okay, never mind. Because look, even The Sixth Sense, when you know, you still rewatch it, and it's one of those where it's like knowing makes you go in with the kind of like microscope of like, ooh, wow, I'm actually catching a lot more stuff. The scenes play differently for me. That was where he was at his best, where the twist didn't ruin the movie. Even with you knowing it, it makes you feel like a detective watching it again. I would argue in the second half, it didn't hold up as much, right? The Visit is fine. I know that was like his return, and you know what he did with Split, and Old was okay. Knock at the Cab. He's kind of on like he's coming back with like his little, you know, return to form where he doesn't have to deal with the studio metal. That was what happened with After Earth, with Avatar. I like that he's funding a lot of his stuff because now he's able to have his daughter on there. His daughter worked on Servants. His daughter worked as, I think, the unit production manager. Yeah, on Old.
Second unit.
So they've been able to work together on a lot of things. I do feel that they've been taking a lot of lore. I don't know if you've heard of the copyright things for Servant.
Right.
That was supposed to be dismissed. It has come back. A lot of these are adaptations. I miss the M. Night that wasn't adapting books. I missed the M. Night that was creating original stuff. Knock at the Cabin's a book. Old is a graphic novel. And The Watchers is a book as well. I read it. I think the story in it is fascinating. The direction here is different. Know that this is not so much a horror thriller as it is a fantasy thriller. Yeah, the end of this movie is a different movie.
Yeah, it really leans into kind of like the folk tale aspect of it, the magical, almost like creature elements of it, and as you say, kind of diverts somewhere in the middle and becomes a different kind of movie. Like it loses that same sense of foreboding and becomes more of like a solving the mystery kind of movie.
Yeah,
And I don't know, it
legacy,
just
some
like,
lore. It felt like the
and I just
beginning of what the
never,
movie's supposed to be.
right, almost like they could have reversed it or something. And
And
I
the
don't
guy's
know,
writing another sequel to his book that's
oh,
supposed to
really
come out in
interesting.
October. So it feels like the movie did that knowing that they want to set up for a Watchers 2 already.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm interested in watching
Was
Watchers
there
2.
anything that stood out to you? Because as you explained, they get stuck in the woods. People are
Yeah,
watching them. There's lore to this little cabin thing that they're
yeah,
being
I
watched
thought some of
in.
the production design elements of it, like that
Oh,
cabin thing too, is like really creepy.
yeah.
You know, it's like it would be like a really sweet deal on Airbnb or something like that. It's it has this like weird quality because it feels so out of place,
Yeah.
given that it's setting, and you know, as they dive deeper into things, I thought it all looked really good. I don't
It's
know
that
if it's
two-way
shot
mirror.
as
Yeah.
well. I don't know if it's shot as well as most M Night films, which granted, like M Night
It's
is
shot
amazing. So
decently. Shot
yeah, but
decently.
it doesn't look ugly by any means. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's some of the visuals that stand out to me, but
I think she's a
yeah,
production designer. I
right.
think she has talked a lot about that and wanting to get into art before her father said, maybe you should try directing. She's like, oh yeah, I like directing as well. When daddy's there on set every day. But I think that the look of it, I think she's very focused on the technicality of it. Having gone to the same school as her father did, she said that they would play M. Night's films and no one would know that she was his kid. I don't know how with the last name like Shyamalan, unless she used a pseudonym. But I think they both went to Tisch. She's been under his, guard, his watch, and being able to study that. But I think the direction in terms of the actors was not there. I know she got Dakota Fanning because she's trying to do the same thing of like she is the daughter of Shyamalan. Dakota's someone who we all grew up with, and now she's 30. We're looking at someone who we think is still a child, but now she's an adult. Her character's going through this like stunted growth because of something that she went in her past. Again, there's a lot that I like in the story. I wish the execution was better.
Yeah. I thought the way it started was really creepy and promising, and then it just doesn't really deliver on that intrigue.
You caught The Strangers, right? We covered The Strangers together.
Yeah, we did cover The
Do you
Strangers.
remember how that opened?
Yeah, because it does a little bit of the like flash forward thing, yeah, with the phone call.
Guy in the woods
Hmm.
with a nice watch who gets killed.
Yeah.
And this one is a guy in the woods with a nice watch who gets killed. I've been saying, bro,
I'd say I preferred it here.
the horror cliche is if you're a white guy in the woods, you're the white guy with a nice watch is the first guy in horror movies now. So you got to be careful. Do not
Isn't there watching it in a Violent Nature as well?
Dude, I knew there was another movie in a Violent Nature. I'm telling you,
it's a trend.
This is the new thing. These horror cliches. We need to watch out for nice watch commercials out in the woods. It's probably an ad that these companies do for it, but I do think it's shot well. There's a very interesting story towards the end that intrigued me, but it becomes a completely different movie. I think that if you had a director who was more experienced with these actors, you'd be able to get something better out of Dakota. I think the best actress in the movie is let's see, the older lady's been in a lot of horror films, the one who plays Madeline. Here, I don't think she's given the best direction. She just knows how to emote the most. And ironically, when you read the book, she's not supposed to because of the character that she is. Georgina Campbell is one of the best horror actresses we have right now.
I was trying to place her the whole movie, but
Barbarian,
she's excellent.
Watchers, decent in Bird Box. And she's had a couple of other ones with Tim and All My Friends Hate Me. I think she's able to do a lot even when the direction's not there. There's a moment where her husband knocks on the door. You see it in the trailers. And she's directed to be like, oh my gosh, that's my husband. And then the way she runs away, she doesn't. She just walks to him. I'm like, what are we blocking here, bro? The guy in the movie, when he has to pick up the camera, the camcorder, there's that one moment where they're trying to set up to be able to watch the watches themselves. But he's moving around with the camcorder, but the camcorder recording doesn't move with it. I'm like, what are we doing here, bro? There's a lot of really weird stuff that happens in the second half as well, where you're questioning how they didn't know about things within this box. different lore things dealing with the Watchers. But I think that if you know anything about Irish mythology, you will be intrigued by it and want to know more. Um, I just wish that they approached it a little bit better, or maybe even started with the ending. Maybe instead of having that intro, have the pitch be the intro of them being trapped, and then expand midway through to what the story really wants to be, because it ends in a completely different note than this, trap thriller that you think uh, you're getting the first time you go. They give out these ads, bro. M. Night's not going cheap for his daughter. It's one of the
Nice.
better hats that I've gotten. It ain't changing my review of the movie, but I do appreciate the quality of the hat, and I appreciate him going all out for his daughter. I've noted that it's very interesting that M. Night made up his own middle name in college to be Knight,
Mhm.
but it's her official last name. It's like I think she's the oldest, so it's like his way of making her his junior.
Interesting.
So, she's in her father's footsteps. I'm very curious to see what she has in store. You could say it two ways. Is she following up on the Shyamalan name, or is there going to be a point where we actually see, what Ishana is going to bring to the screen? I'm very curious to see what she has in store for the future. I didn't think it
Yeah.
was the worst, but there was so much more potential, and I think that's why it falls flat sometimes.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that like it starts promising but doesn't know really. It's one of those movies that you can kind of feel the momentum dying as you're like you
Yeah,
want to like it more, and then it just loses you along the way. But if this is her grown up film school or whatever it is, her taking the training wheels off or whatever, like I'm still curious to see what we'll get from
I'm
her,
so
and
curious. Yeah,
hopefully she has a really cool original idea up her sleeve that now
that's what
that
I
she's
want.
got one under her belt, she can move on to that.
I like Josie, shout out in the chat, said, shot by the guy who shot Lamb. I have seen that. Another reason why I think it really stands out, especially with how they shot in Ireland. There were some shots where they would do some really beautiful landscape things, but they had like the score sounded like The Shining. It'd have these horns that went like boom, 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 boom. And I'm like, all right, we're still borrowing a lot from a lot of other things, but I like you. Am curious to see what she has next. The Watchers. I wouldn't recommend it in theaters, but I think give it a watch once it's out on streaming. Let's cover a movie that we covered. I think at TIFF. We covered at Sundance. It is now out in. I was gonna say in theaters, out on Netflix, which is theaters to some people. Um,
Mhm.
some people are split.
Yeah, I mean, I think that tends to be the thing that happens when the movie gets released on Netflix because it becomes available to all sorts of people and not just the ones who are motivated enough to go see it in theaters. Because I feel like if you're in for a Richard Linklater movie for a Glen Powell hangout, there's nothing to be too disappointed with in Hitman. I've revisited it now twice since it popped on
Right.
Netflix. It is like quite delightful. I think it's just a really easy to watch movie. Some of my qualms with it when I first saw it are how kind of like uh how sort of meandering it is in the beginning. Like it really takes quite a while for the plot to kick into gear. Like there's plot there, but it's kind of like the undercurrent of what's really like a character thing,
Yeah.
really a hangout with Glenn Powell's fake hitman character. But the thing is, like, when this movie gets going, it really gets going, and
Mm,
there's like a 30-minute stretch there that's some of the most like electric, fun, kind of like what should feel like blockbuster filmmaking I think we've had all year.
yeah.
That whole notes app scene is maybe the best scene we've
Fantastic.
had all year. Yeah. I don't know. I like this a lot. I think that there's a lot of really interesting things about self-actualization that the movie is saying. I don't know if you saw Jane Schoenbrunn, director of I Saw the TV Glows, tweet talking about uh saying that this movie is trans and that they asked Richard Linklater about that, and that he's like kind of open to that interpretation of it as well. But
Mhm.
it really in a lot of ways is sort of about like imagining the kind of person you can be, and then acting on it, and the way that sometimes we can mold ourselves in the image of something we desire to be.
Yeah, I think it's a very solid blockbuster movie. It's the kind of one that you would recommend easily to anyone in your family, friends. We watch a lot of really good stuff out of festivals, but is it going to be available? Is it really going to be up everyone's sleeve? This is one that I think is one of the easiest recommendations, like we've said in the past. But just like right now, I think a lot of the reaction isn't even to the movie. I think you and I many times see reviews where it's just like not reviewing the movie, but reviewing reviews of the movie. I think the hype that it has got people going like, oh, I don't think it lived up to this or this or this. Or this. I think, but what did you think of the movie though? Same thing happened at festivals. When it got that big overseas reaction, we didn't hear reviews of the movie other than reviews saying, oh, I don't think it's up to that. Okay, that's fine. But what do you think of... Like, you just gave me a really good breakdown of like what it could represent, what it's supposed to be, something on the performances, on the scenes. And I think because of the hype that it's been getting, we've been seeing this turnaround since festivals where people are reacting to the reactions. And that happens to a lot of Linklater movies, I feel. I remember that happening to Boyhood as well. I remember that being a big thing for me where I was just like, I don't think it lives up to the hype. And I wasn't really reviewing Boyhood for what Boyhood was supposed to be because I was so stuck on, really, this is 5 stars? I don't know. It's just... That's the type of filmmaker Linklater is, where he goes all in. He gives you a vibe movie that when people aren't vibing with it, they start not being able to, cover what's actually in front of them. But the reactions that people are giving to them, I think it's fantastic. I haven't been able to revisit it on Netflix, but I've been seeing some of the interviews that he's done. The man's got so much charisma, in and out. I'm so excited.
Are we talking Richard or Glenn? Because it's both
of them. It's both of them, to be honest. Because honestly, when they always say that a director casts the lead to be himself, like DiCaprio.
Sorry, you broke up.
How DiCaprio got that whole thing that directors choose someone who looks like them.
Definitely.
I think he scoped this guy out.
Linklater and all of his protagonists. I mean,
for a while,
Ethan Hawke is basically playing Linklater in the
through
Before series.
Through. Yeah, and I saw that quote that was going around about what inspired the Before series and how he went on a walk and the lady who he had dedicated it to. He didn't find out until like, what was it, midnight, about what really happened to her. Look that stuff up. Very interesting things. But I know he's been working with Glenn Powell for a while. I think one of the best ones that they've done together would be Everybody Wants Some. Another movie where I absolutely adored it when I saw it at a festival screening. Then I saw it in theaters. And it was like probably 5 other people in there. They were not vibing with it the same way. So Linklater really is this person where he makes these movies where you just have to be in that mood, in that vibe to really go with it.
He
I'm
makes
curious
a lot of hangout
next.
movies. He makes
That's what
movies
it is.
that there's a lot of air in them, right? And sometimes
you need to be willing to hang out.
Yeah, that sometimes that air can make you feel a little bit like restless in your seat, like, where is this going? What are we doing? What's the point of this? But like when you can key into the themes, the mood, the vibes, they're just like the really delightful movies to hang out with. I don't know if any of the criticisms of the movie resonate with you. Like, one criticism of the movie that I feel like is very fair is that like it's not exactly the most like visually exciting movie. Like, it's fine. It's not like it's like a beautiful movie to look at, but that doesn't stop me from having a really good time with it. I think the things that the movie does well, it does excellently. And one of those things that isn't necessarily like giving you groundbreaking cinematography, but it's not like it's ugly either.
No, I agree with you there. Was it shot during the pandemic? That could be another reason for why they had to maybe approach it that way.
I think like maybe like not quite in the height of the pandemic, but shortly after.
Yeah, you're not wrong there, because it is a lot of like, he'll be doing something and it's reverse shot with whatever person he's interrogating, and then it's him back in the truck, right? Just listening in. But what it lacks in cinematography, it more than makes up in its performances. Both of the leads are incredible in the film, so I would give a shout out to that. And
not just the leads too. I wanted to shout out Austin Emilio, who plays kind of like the detective who's sort of the foil of the movie. I thought he was like incredible in this movie. Like, you need a kind of great sleazebag character for them to play opposite off of.
Oh, he was in Everybody Wants Some. Okay.
Yeah. I thought he was a really good actor in this.
Is he in Walking Dead? He's in something else, bro. Someone will let me know, but I recognize him from something else. Yeah, Hollow was a pretty good indie movie as well. But I agree with you. As well as who else? I think it was what's her name? Retta? Yeah, she was pretty good in it as well. Just having a good ensemble to go with it. But hey, I agree with you. It's definitely a vibe movie. In mentioning Boyhood, I remember you talking about having seen the play and how he's also working on the Merrily We Go Along or Roll Along. That he's also having it be in terms of different stages in these actors' careers. So I'm excited to see what he's going to do with that one as well. But hey, it's Richard Linklater. He's always coming out with bangers, even if you don't like it at the moment. I like that it's on Netflix because you can catch it later, and you know, when you're willing to hang out. You never want to bring someone out on the weekend who wants to stay at home, but when you're willing to go out, that's when the movie hits the most. So Hitman, I still recommend it. One of my favorite action comedy steamy rom-coms that's out there, and is now available on Netflix for everyone to catch. Another one that we were able to catch several years ago at Sundance when it was going to be in person, but then they swapped it out for it to not be in person. But we had already got our Airbnb, so we had our iconic Harry Potter house get together where you, me, Amanda, the girls, we were able to just like have this Airbnb where we had a projector room and we just saw movie after movie after movie off of our accounts. And there was a film called Am I Okay that left most of us in tears because we were laughing, because it was joyous, because it was sad. I caught it again. I don't know if you had the chance to see it off of HBO Max, whatever it's called now.
Not yet.
Am I Okay, directed by Tig Notaro and her partner Stephanie. In what I would say is, you could say it's the grown-up Booksmart. You could say it's, I know it's going to be blasphemous to some, a lesbian version of Superbad, in my opinion, of two people who have been friends for so long that they're damn near codependent. Some people think that they're even dating. And then one of them finally realizes that they're coming out, but it's at such a later age that they don't know how to do so. The same way that Tig and her partner had to deal with. Dakota Johnson gets a lot of flack. But I think you and I both agree. This is the Nepo Baby podcast right now, because it's yet again another one. I think when she's good, she's good. And I'm going to say something here that may be controversial.
She's one of our premier Nepo babies, in fact.
I think she's the new Nick Cage.
That's a really interesting comparison.
Right?
Because like obviously she doesn't really have like the gonzo quality that Nick Cage brings to some of his roles.
Not
but
yet.
The self-awareness and
or sometimes when people think it's not self-aware.
Right. That ability to sort of like be a little bit in this like undefinable region. Where it's like, are we laughing with you or at you, or maybe a little bit of both?
Are you so committed that 100%. It's a good performance because you're being awkward, or are people going to make fun of you for that bit because out of context it feels funny? She comes from very famous people. People forget Nick Cage comes from the Coppolas. That's why he changed his last name. I think there's a lot there. I think both of them can be regarded as good actors, but then also like the next movie be one of the worst things that you have seen. She's younger than Nick Cage. I think Nick Cage already has his eras. In this one, I think she plays that awkwardness to a T. See, she is sometimes a loser. She is sometimes cringy. She is everything that the character needs to be. And I thought it worked extremely well. It also has Sonoya, who is on a run at the moment, not just obviously always appearing in the new Alex Garland, but she is a standout in the House of the Dragons, kind of playing the, not Melisandre, but I'm forgetting what the other characters would have been from the original series, who would like play with Tyrion and such, because she is almost a right-hand love interest for Damon's character, Matt Smith's character. And I think she does a really good job. I think she does a fantastic job in this one as well, because she has a range of being able to do drama, being able to play a robot in Ex Machina, and then be one of the funniest characters in this movie, who's telling her friend, yo, you need to grow up. I don't know if you recall your thoughts on this movie, but having rewatched it, it still stands up for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's been 2.5 years, so I'm a little bit distant from it. I did not have a good time with this one, unfortunately. Like, I know the rest of our group enjoyed it, and Manda had a really emotional experience with it. I don't know. I just didn't think this was a very good script. I think the characters are kind of ill-defined and sort of not. I don't know, man. It's cute, but it's never funny. Like it just isn't. What? It's not funny. Like it's not.
Nah, bruh.
Like you have the Dakota Johnsonisms of it, and like Sonoya's fine, but it's Sonoya's so nothing. Great. Like it's a very nothing movie.
They're making fun of it. You know what you were saying about Linklater? It's about the vibe, and if you're not on the vibe, you're not on the vibe.
Yeah, man, it's not a good vibe. It's not a hangout.
Man, so you have to be a lesbian to truly understand what's happening in this film between the two of them. Look,
I don't think so.
I followed enough of Tig to have seen like a lot of. I felt like it was a lot of her stand up personified
Yeah,
into the
that's the
movie
thing.
of what she dealt with.
They really tried to get the sort of dry delivery that Tig Notaro has into Dakota Johnson, but I just think that it doesn't translate from how Tig does it on stage to this character. Like it feels like she's constantly doing an internal monologue out loud to
Mhm.
like people who should be entertaining it. Like it doesn't feel like how people interact to me.
I like that. I'm curious if you catch it again, what you
Yeah.
think. Maybe get a different vibe from it. But I thought they played it well off of each other. I think they have a lot of jokes that they make. That again, I felt was like super bad, where they're always insulting each other, but it's out of love,
Yeah.
but it's also out of like frustration. I am sick of you up to here, but at the same time, they have this codependent relationship where as much as they're dissing each other, they also need each other. It worked for me, but it's out on Max, so if people are interested in it, you can catch it. If you're not vibing with it, turn it off, play something else, like Hitman over on Netflix. But Am I Okay? It took a while to come out, but it's finally here, along with some other ones. Just to mention really quickly from stuff that we've seen. Late Bloomers was another movie that we had caught at South by that had a
Yeah.
very quiet release. I don't know if you were going to mention it later, but if you were,
I got it in picks for the week, but I can also
all right.
do an audible.
I'll bring it up later. There was another one that is out in like what am I blanking on it? I Used to Be Funny.
Yeah,
Is out on VOD.
already.
We
One that we caught at South by last year, starring Rachel Sennett in and maybe a bit more of a dramatic role than we're used to seeing her. She plays a
mhm.
stand-up comedian, so she is leaning into that humor that she can bring to roles. But you know, she's a comedian who's gone through kind of like a traumatic experience and is having trouble getting herself to be funny, to feel like she can just do her normal routine and live life like she used to. And I
Yeah.
think you know, it's a really great opportunity for Sennett to play all the aspects of the character, the insecurity, the sadness, the humor of it. I think it feels lived in. My comparison for this one was Judd Apatow's Funny People, because it's similarly a movie about like the dramatic happenings that happen to a group of very comedic individuals, like the way that that movie, like it's about serious things, but it stays funny because the cast is all comedians. You've got a lot of that
Yeah,
vibe going on here in I Used to Be Funny as well.
I agree. They did an interesting job cutting up the trailer. That kind of plays off of what's really happening.
Yeah.
But I like you. I think that the way that they were able to combine the drama and the comedy works very well. It's available for you to catch at home, and this is one that we both do agree is worth catching. So,
Yes,
uh,
absolutely.
an agreement right here. I Used to Be Funny out on VOD. Am I Okay? Out on Max. But another festival pick that we got to catch a couple of years ago was this space thriller called I.S.S. I guess a space political thriller.
Right.
You had recommended this one to me when we were doing Tribeca last year. So before we get
Yeah.
into our new Tribeca stuff, remind the people why they should catch this one, because I think we both thought it was decent enough.
Yeah, I mean, this is another one that's maybe a little bit in the watchers camp, in that like it has a really cool idea and shows a lot of promise, and it doesn't all pan out, but I found this one more entertaining than I did the Watchers. ISS takes place on the International Space Station,
Huh?
where a group of American astronauts and Russian astronauts work together on various projects, whether that's biological projects or space exploration projects or mechanical engineering type of things. They are working in harmony as men of science often do, men and women of science, as the lead of this movie is Ariana DeBose. But things take a turn when the political situation gets ramped up at home, and suddenly former friends are launched into enemy combatant type of relationships. Just the way that the movie sort of navigates these people entrapped in an enclosed space together in a highly fraught situation, given that they're not even on the planet. They are looking
That,
down at
yeah,
what's going on Earth, and sort of because they don't have that connection, they're trying to figure out what to do in the absence of communication. I thought there's so many fascinating ideas here, and then it does devolve a little bit into like not the best CGI
no,
action sequences, but like
yeah, is no good.
there's it's still just like there's enough to talk about and think about that I
Yeah.
found this one worthwhile.
Agreed. Especially because playing alongside her is Chris Messina, who I think has never,
Yes.
ever given a bad performance. John Gallagher Jr. is always able to bring some really good stuff to the table, and it's one of those where I would not recommend it in theaters, but it's one of those where it's like, but it's worth catching once it's out on streaming. I know no one has Paramount Plus. I don't think Paramount even has Paramount Plus, but while it's still up and wherever you may be able to find it on streaming, it's interesting because it's one of those where you're able to catch a couple of little glimpses to the survival thriller between the character moments and what they may be leading on to. So a half recommendation, but one to keep your eyes out for. I.S.S. on Paramount Plus. We're wrapping this up before we get into 2 awards and festival coverage that we have. But in terms of theaters and streaming, there is a movie that was in theaters for just a little bit after its South by, I think, premiere, and is now on Movie, which, first and foremost, screw you, Movie, for raising the price and not letting people know. I never got the email. I had to find out through twitter.com. Y'all are not posting enough.
It's not slick.
Cut that movie, go. Bro, it is way too much money to be paying for some of these projects over here, especially when now you got to do the Netflix model. Y'all wanted to make fun of the Netflixes and the HBOs and the Disney Pluses. Well, now we're doing the same thing to you. I'm not paying $14.99 for this to be the new movie of the month. But then that's also kind of mean to it because we do like these directors. Turner Ross and Bill Ross IV have done really good stuff.
No, I was just going to say that. And Mubi's got so many great films on there right now, particularly. It's just, it's a steep price hike all of a sudden. But sorry, we're
ridiculous, man.
To
ridiculous.
The Ross brothers, who, by the way, some of their old movies are also available through Movie right now.
They look, they're very close to, I always compare Movie to Criterion, right? But Criterion's giving you so much more bang for your buck in terms of literally saving you on these spines by giving you all the special features and such. And for Movie, they're gone within like 30 days. They're gone way quicker. But they have their entire collection, their shorts, their previous features. One that we really recommend is Bloody Nose, Empty Pockets, because it does this very fascinating thing where it's approaching a documentary.
Yeah.
But none of them are real people. Docufiction. Thank you. That's what they call it. They're actors who are playing parts, but there's not really a script. There's just like a point A and point B, and then they document them. I think this is similar. What'd you think about Gasoline Rainbow?
I still haven't caught this one, actually.
Oh, you haven't caught this one?
Thought about it. Yeah, I need to catch up.
Then I'm just going to keep it brief. There was a movie that came out called Lost Souls that also, I think, premiered maybe at South by, if not Tribeca last year. Very similar to this. So I'm going to just compare them both together as it loads for me right here. Gasoline Rainbows is kind of the same approach where you got like 5 kids who are all playing parts. Bro, it's an improv group, but they're not on the stage. They're in a van and they're going from place to place. I think sometimes they interact with people who are truly not actors. Lost Souls did a very similar thing, but I think this was also playing off of a bunch of artists who are going in a van, going out into the middle of nowhere, and then just trying to connect with each other. It is another vibe movie that's trying to play it in a very artistic way, especially the way the Ross brothers do, where it's actors playing that, how'd you call it? Docu-fiction?
Docu-fiction, yeah.
Sometimes they're just rambling. Sometimes they're vibing, and it's like, oh, this is interesting. This reminds me of hanging out with friends. But sometimes you may rather hang out with friends than watch these guys just pretend to be stoners or just vibe out or try to figure out what they're trying to do. It's interesting. I'll talk about it more once you get the chance to catch it. But if you wanted to do a double feature, or if you've seen Gasoline Rainbows or Lost Souls, just know that this is a good pairing. And I think this one may be coming out somewhere as well very soon. But Gasoline Rainbow, Lost Souls, already out on VOD if you're curious to catch them. I do want to jump forward, though, before we get into our big Tony talk and our Tribeca talk. We have so much coverage to talk about, the stuff that is on stage and the movies that are about to come. Let's do a really quick TV pilot previews because we have a lot to catch up on with June. I'm going to start off with probably, I'm going to say it's the funniest one of the group, Fantasmas. Problemista, I think, is also going to come out on HBO Max. So you have another really good double feature here. But this is the new one from Julio Torres, who says that he's Julio. The genre is Julio. And the product is Julio. I think there's 2 episodes out. I got to catch the premiere, so just talking about that right there. What did you think of Julio's new Julioing?
This is
Oh,
another
you
one
haven't seen
that
this one?
I
Oh
hadn't caught
man!
up with the Tribeca stuff. Sorry, man. So
All right,
leaving you to try.
I'm a big Problemista fan.
Yeah, I mean
This works.
Julio's amazing, so I can't wait to catch up with this one.
This works hand in hand with him, bro. This is like his sketch series that he found to. You know how Black Lady Sketch Show is also a sketch series, but instead of SNLing it, where you're jumping from sketch to sketch, there's like a pseudo narrative. There's a pseudo narrative here. He just gets on an Uber, and as he's talking to different people, it becomes random sketches. Bro, there is a goofy sketch where they ask him, "What do you do for a living?" And he says, "I Julio." And he's like, "What the hell does that mean?" He goes, "I'm able to come up with different things. Like, have you ever wondered why Q's in the middle of the alphabet when it really should be an XYZ?" Then you go on 7 minutes where what's his name? What am I blinking on his name? One of the most prolific actors.
Jabuki?
Not Jabuki. Jabuki's in this as well.
Yeah.
Big Lebowski.
What are we talking? Buscemi?
Buscemi plays Q, and he's a rock star who no one ever gets him because he came 2 up in the lineup, and then XYZ ended up becoming the younger generation who shout out. Like, who comes up with this stuff, right? But that was Problemista. He was a toy creator who wanted to create like the weirdest Barbies. He kind of keeps the same thing here, where he has an idea for a Crayola color that's invisible. And they're like, well, why would it be invisible? And they're like, because invisible allows people to be able to see things and things within themselves that they may have never been able to do. And they're like, what should we call it? And call it, the color should be called Fantasmas. They're like, why should it be? It should be Fantasma. And he goes, no, it should be Fantasmas because that's how Julio wants it. That's all it is, bro. It's Julio in the most Julio way. And if you've liked that from any of his past stuff, from his SNL work, what was the other one? Spookies, I think was the other one.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how does this
here.
compare to Los the Spookies if you'd seen some of that?
It's different in the sense that, again, he's able to jump around in the way that his mind works. And I think a lot of people who've got that ADHD-ness in them, he's just jumping from one point to another, to another, to another. And he's making, it's like a guy who likes talking in tangents. How you doing? This is for you. So Fantasmas is definitely up. If you're a person who likes that type of stuff, Fantasmas is definitely going to be up your alley. And I would say definitely do a double feature with Problemista that I think should be added to the platform as well.
Nice.
So it's getting a thumbs up from me so far.
Very
the
cool.
next one,
catch up with it.
I'll let you take this one away because I think this one we got at South by and is one of those docu series where it could be a documentary, but I think they're splitting it up into like 3 parts. Tell me more about Ren Faire.
So Ren Faire is the latest documentary from a really interesting filmmaker who we've talked about a few times, or a couple times at least on this show, Lance Oppenheim, who directed Some Kind of Heaven, the documentary that took a look at the villages in Florida, as well as Sperm World, the sperm donor documentary on Hulu that we covered earlier this year. And if you've seen either of those, you know that Lance Oppenheim has a very distinct kind of style that comes with his documentaries. They look really cinematic.
Very dreamy.
They've got this like real ethereal kind of quality to it where it just sort of feels like little pieces of life and not like a documentary, just like these like vertical slices where you get a really interesting picture of a person from the minute details of their life. It's really fascinating stuff and really beautifully put together. Here he lends his camera towards this Ren Faire, a Renaissance festival somewhere in Texas, I believe, that is going through a transition as the longtime owner of it debates on who should succeed him. So you got a little bit of like HBO Succession going to HBO's Ren Faire here. But Lance Oppenheim, the way that he directs, he always finds like these peculiar elements of these characters, right? Like he uncovers the strange nuances of their life in a way that reveals a lot about their character. And I think it's very like it just feels very intimate because it reveals such these personal little details, the kind of things that, like, even if they're not necessarily private, they're not things that would come up in conversation, if that makes any sense.
It does.
Yeah. He also does the pretty interesting thing here in that I feel like there's a bit of docufiction going on. Whether it's like outright fictionalizing things or just doing these kind of recreations and
Reenactments. That's how I
staged
took it. Yeah.
shots and stuff. Yeah, like I think there's a lot of like working in tandem with his subjects to get the right shot and get the right moment and play things up in a way that kind of lends a dramatic quality that is reminiscent of these Renaissance fairs, right? Because Renaissance fairs
Yep.
are places where people go and develop a character and deliver lines and act. And so, like, how much of what we're seeing is these people continuing to put on a performance, and how much of it is just their authentic life is one of the interesting things that I think is kind of simmering underneath the surface of this whole documentary. But it's got this really fascinating quality to it in the way that he's able to um you know document these characters and find these like little moments. It feels like he's able to capture the eccentricities of human behavior better than most documentarians.
I agree. I've been able to catch the first episode, and there's that one guy who he follows, the one who's like, every time I leave and I come back, I can't ever go on vacation because things end up changing. He was one where, like you describe he's almost capturing a moment that feels too private, where he's opening up to
Yes.
his wife, but he both feels pathetic. It feels like it's embarrassing and it's making fun of him, but it's so raw and intimate that it's also like, man, this really is a worker who's trying his hardest to make it be a thing. There's that awkward exchange where, like you said, he doesn't just own this place and run it. They call him the king. He
Yeah.
he is truly out there thinking that he's like you said, Succession. He is the one that everybody bows down to, and they really do, because his like servants say that we work for the king, and if I work for the king, my wife also serves the king as well. They think they're in thrones and stuff, but yeah, I think he's always had a very interesting viewpoint, something that he's had in Sperm World and even in the other one that he covers in Florida, where he's able to cover these subjects in a very interesting way that also embodies what they do. Like you said, the Ren Faire reenactment side here is done pretty well. So I'm very curious to see how it wraps. And I believe, like we said, it's only 3 parts. So
Yes. So I think they might
it
all
should be
be out
done, right?
now. Yeah, I
Okay.
want to say so. So it's a
We got
very interesting show, and Oppenheim is a director that you have to keep your eye on. He's always finding really interesting subjects. I feel like he shares some sort of like spiritual qualities with John Wilson, even though their visual style couldn't be more different.
I can see that. All right, good. Ren Faire out on Max, one that I think we would both recommend. Really quick, 2 other ones here, just to say something about them, is that The Acolyte is out on Disney Plus. I have seen every reaction under the sun possible, and I'm here to say that I do not follow Star Wars, so just I don't
What's the matter? You don't think woke ruined Star Wars?
I don't care, bro. I don't
You're an
care.
adult.
I
You're an adult.
couldn't I couldn't care less about flipping out. And I want to make sure y'all understand. It goes both ways. I think if you're freaking out about it, and I think if you're like, this is the greatest thing we have finally been seeing, I think both of them are the goofiest perspectives to have on this show that's damn near animated. I'll wait to catch the whole thing, because there's one thing that stood out to me, bro. You know, this is the one that's got Leslie
Yes.
Headland as the showrunner, and I
Yeah.
mess with Russian dolls so heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
my computer don't even want to have me talking about the Acolyte here. It's just one of those where there's not even a conversation to be had here, because everyone's already made up their mind. But you
Yeah.
also have Koganada. Koganada's
Mm-hmm.
directing some episodes. You cannot tell me that they're not going to be directed well. And I had an observation. You know how, for years, decades, centuries, we have had so many movies that maybe, like you were saying earlier, I can watch something from the 90s and it's not going to hold up as much because it might be, a little controversial. Stuff isn't as thought out as it maybe could be. But you're like, no, but
Some
there's some
stuff
funny
gets dated.
stuff in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it's dated. Hey, that movie may have been done by racists, but like they reinvented something there. Why do people always go, yeah, but if you look past the other stuff that the Rosemary's Baby director did, it's still kind of good. But when it comes, there's never been something woke that by accident maybe is good. Like, why is it
Right.
always like the controversial stuff, but never like the woke stuff? I think it could be in both ways. Like, oh yeah, it's kind of disgustingly trying to do identity politics, but Koganada could direct the scene. we can't
Right.
have those discussions ever, bro. Because like you were
Well,
saying, some people are like, you can't review that. It's problematic. You can't watch it. I don't know. He's kind of got the juice over there. Maybe they got the juice over here too, bro. But we can't ever have real discussions.
no,
Tell
that's
me,
the
because we're
thing.
gonna
There's
do the
no
same
room
thing for the
for
boys.
Yeah, there's no room for nuance and criticism. You have to have a strong take. Either it's the best thing you've seen or it's the worst thing you've seen, and you won't satisfy the algorithm otherwise. So
I don't
yeah,
know.
Acolyte. It's the best and worst show that we've seen this year, even though I
Right?
haven't seen it yet.
But yeah, do watch Leslie's show, Russian Doll. I think that was really good.
Yeah,
I think she could.
watch her movie Bachelorette. She's an amazing
Yeah.
playwright. Did I tell you
No,
that I saw her? She was in the audience for when I went to go see the Annie Baker play.
no, really.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. So she's still
That
out on the New York theater scene, catching stuff.
nice. That's good. But now
Yeah.
she's trapped in the Disney Star Wars thing, and I again, I would never judge somebody who's under that umbrella. But sometimes you create your own umbrella because The Boys season 4 is now out, and again, another one. I don't think the Homelander fans have found out that the show's making fun of them. I think they've always known that. I think the Boys fans have not realized that this isn't just making fun of the Patriots. The people you're following, the boys are CIA operatives, bro. I think the whole show has imploded in on itself at this point. People have now approached the boys as being way too heavy handed. I think it's always been heavy handed, but it's never
Mhm.
taken itself as serious. You know how
Mm.
they make fun of Zack Snyder in the show, but it's not Zack
Yeah.
Snyder. It's that one actor who's in Babylon and stuff, who's like doing the Dawn of the Seven. They're
Right.
no longer doing that. They're just mentioning Tom Hanks having an island.
Mm.
They've gone lazy, in my opinion, in having it be a metaphor, which is why people think, oh, people didn't get the metaphor was on them. Cool, but that's why the metaphor works so well. It's why The Matrix is one of the best movies, even though people have not gotten it. Fight Club, all these different things. The first couple of seasons of The Boys. Now they're just straight up just telling you things that have happened in the real world, even though they live in a different universe. Bro, they are bringing up vaccines here for how we deal with them in our social media.
Mhm.
As if y'all don't have a whole vaccine plot line about people taking Gen V. They've lost the plot. They've lost the
Mhm.
plot, and it has nothing to do with how audiences reflected and not having realized that the Homelander subplot was making fun of them. You have another Homelander opposition, which is the what's Victoria, who's also the opposite of him and is evil. I don't think everyone is seeing whatever they want to see in the show, but I do think, objectively speaking, the show has lost its own plot. There is superhero armor on some of these characters where they're never gonna die. They're trying to play with some false narratives now, but I do think that them stopping the metaphorical aspect and recreating things from our world into the show has now just become them straight up just mentioning things that have happened in our universe when I'm like, bro, we are in a completely different timeline. It would have
Mm.
never happened there. That is weird. You know, like I don't need to
Yeah.
see Jenner doing the Pepsi thing. It was funny when you translated that into A Train. They're no longer doing that, bro. And I don't think it's the strongest they've had the show. And I think they are doing plot lines where I don't have a problem with it, but I do have a problem with you knowing you're going to bait rage people. And that is corny. It's become
Mm.
very corny. The showrunner said they were going to do extra seasons and then immediately retracted and said, okay, we're ending it on season 5. Yeah, bro. What'd you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of the risk you run when you try to make your fantastical show also about real world things, is that it still has to make sense within the world that it's coming from, right? And
Thank you.
otherwise, like
Thank you.
you feel like it's the creators talking through the characters at you rather than the characters talking and actually doing their thing. I haven't seen season 4 of The Boys yet, so I don't. I'm gonna trust your opinion on that, but I think this has sort of always been my debate with The Boys, because I kind of enter every new season really hesitant and skeptical. And so far, I've come through the first 3 seasons, like still really enjoying it. Like maybe not quite as much as I enjoyed the first season, but I
Good.
thought through the first 3 seasons they really deliver. But when you have a show that's constantly at 11, I feel like you run the risk of just like there's nowhere to go when you're already that high up.
Exactly.
And I don't know, maybe you're feeling like it's kind of reached that point already. That's always been my concern with The Boys. I'm still gonna give it a chance because, like I said, through
Yeah, for
3
sure.
seasons, I've really enjoyed it. But yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to see it kind of go south.
it hasn't stopped me from like not wanting to keep up with it, but it has definitely not. I feel like it's definitely not reaching that level that it used to be, and you're starting to see a little bit
Mhm.
of the cracks. But yeah, you never know. Maybe on the second half they can fix it. But boy, do they
Right.
love adding gratuitous sex scenes for no reason, bro. There's a certain
Yeah.
point where you're like, I don't even know if this is from the comics at this point. Y'all in the showrunners have a thing. They're like, isn't this crazy that the characters keep doing this? No, it's crazy. Y'all keep writing it,
You keep
funding
doing.
it, getting the prosthetics. I don't know what's up with y'all. Oh, but speaking of gratuitous sex scenes, let's talk about one that had hit its season 2 debut, but I think works on all levels. I am rewatching
Yeah.
and cutting up House of the Dragon season 1,
Sick.
and rewatching it, bro. This is just that franchise. Game
Mm-hmm.
of Thrones, we all know, didn't end the best way possible, but you're lying if even in the last season you're still not thinking about some of those episodes that were super grand. They dropped the
Yeah.
ball. We know that, but man, it does not stop what was one of the best series out there. Like forget Max, just out there. House
Mm-hmm.
of the Dragons, I think, is delivering at that level from the performances, from the plot lines. The CGI is a little iffy. I'm not gonna lie, but tell me what you thought of the season premiere, season 2 of House of the Dragon.
I'm just really thankful to be back in this mode with the Game of Thrones franchise. I mean, one of the smartest things they ever did was not abandoning that theme song, because the Ramin Barani
Right?
theme comes on and it just feels right. It just feels great. It's so wonderful to be back in Westeros with all the like machinations and backstabbing and engineering of how these characters are going to get together. I just think it's so like there are a few shows that have been able to do what Game of Thrones and now House of the Dragon are doing so well, in that they give you so many characters and they do such a good job of defining who they are and who they are in opposition to each other. Because it's not just about putting two interesting characters together on screen, but thinking about what it means for them to interact, what it means for a like spoiled teenager to ascend to the throne, and the lack of responsibility he'll show there, and the people who have done the hard work of getting him there, and that how frustrating and difficult it is to navigate, knowing the like correct politically tact way to go about things, and having this idiot with all the power below you. The just the way that like it the relationships really drive the action of the show. When somebody makes a decision, it feels like it emanates from the character. That it's just really solid TV writing, and I'm just really enjoying being in this world. I love the intrigue of it. I love uh just finding deeper crevices in all these
Yes.
characters. There's like a really great moment with Eric, the bodyguard, in this one, where he talks about how he and his brother were raised to protect the royal family, and what do you do when the royal family turns against
They
each other?
split, yeah.
It's these ways that they're able to just add these details, add this depth to a whole ensemble that is so rewarding.
I have, like I said, been rewatching the first season and knowing everything that leads up to the premiere. It is incredible. I'm
Yeah.
rewatching it like it's brand new for the first time. Because one, they throw so much at you, right? There's a lot of political conversations that are happening, and
Hmm.
there's so much nuances in the performances where you realize, oh, he didn't mean it that way. He meant it this way. Now that I know what his ultimate goal was, or oh, that's how she's feeling here, and this is what ripples into this, into that, and it is an incredible show that rewards multiple viewings. The action is incredible. The performances are fantastic. The characters are so intriguing. It's a 5 out of 5 for me at this moment. It is the
Hmm.
one show that I'm tuning in on a weekly basis for sure, and I'm just excited to see where they take it from there. I know Emma had the one line, and the
Hmm.
boys still messed it up, bro. Like it was one line that was said specifically on the order.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's firing on all cylinders. Do you have a favorite character so far?
Um, I mean, I think I do really enjoy Emma Darcy and Olivia Cook's performances in particular. So it's fun to see both of them navigating this. Um, I don't know if I'd call him my favorite character, but I do kind of love that they've given what's his name, Sir Christian Cole, the
Circle?
like the hot girl who feels like she's only been being used for her body storyline.
Goofy. And then you
Like,
heard her come out and say that there was like a much longer sequence
yeah,
for
yeah.
their scenes.
But I love even the little moment where it's like he's asking his dress to be zipped up for him when they pin the kin on his back.
Honestly, dude. Yeah. No, and again, rewatching the first season, his character and the way it progresses is fascinating. It really is one of the
Yeah.
most well-written shows. I'm gonna go with a little side. Obviously, Damon's fantastic, but I think overall my favorite one would be Rainey's, the aunt. I think she's the most badass
Right.
character there because I feel like we haven't fully gone in with her character yet.
Yeah.
We know that she was never the queen, or she's the queen who never was. Corliss, I think, has the best reactions in all of the franchise. Her husband, he looks the coolest. He's always like just he'll get one scene in the series, but it'll be like the standout, just like look at the camera moment.
Yeah.
But she did have one of the most badass scenes in season one when she comes in with the dragon, bro. I know that we're still going to get a lot more from her. But yeah, I agree with you. I think the older actors have done a really good job in playing Allison's and Rhaenyra, but I miss the younger actresses.
Yeah. Molly
They were
Aycock.
really good, dude.
Yeah.
But hey, still a fascinating show. Please catch up. Know that you do not need to watch the whole Game of Thrones because this takes place 170 something years before. You just need
Yeah.
to watch season one, and it is worth it. House of the Dragon.
Yeah, and especially I think that what's cool is like that season one was a lot of table setting. Like it takes place across like decades of time. There's that big
It's
time skip as
it's
well.
the setup, yeah.
But from all the interviews that I've heard with Ryan Condal, who's running the show, it seems like that season was really kind of to get things in place. So now they're in the meat of the book in season two.
Yeah,
And
it's that.
things are
Deathly
really
Hallows
going to get
Part One.
going. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very good. It's very good. So definitely catch up on that one because it gets a full 2 thumbs up, full recommendation, a must watch from us. But that is all of the movies, all of the TV pilot previews. Let us know what you've been watching down below, what your favorite one was, what we need to catch up on as we jump into our first award breakdown. And that is the 77th annual Tony Awards. We have been pretty much on the money, always covering the next stuff that's been up because the Tony Awards will either become they'll cover plays, musicals that will eventually become big movies. We got Wicked coming out later this year. Or you have a lot of stuff like Doubt that has now become Broadway plays. The Outsiders, which was a book to movie, now to an award-winning play.
Yeah.
I'll let you break
Not
it
to
down
mention some of
because
this stuff tours eventually. So like
too.
even if
Yeah.
you're not able to come to New York, a lot of
Hey,
it will eventually come to you.
you and I love movies. We love
Yeah.
music. We love video games too, as Rebecca has now dropped the film and said, all media. But the Tony Awards covers what I have to say is the most profound, just honestly, the epitome of the performing arts. You are doing music live, you are doing acting live, and when you're on set, you are getting a fraction of what this is because you can edit it, you can do another take. This is day in, day out. These people are living in the theater for that specific reason to give you some of the best art that's out there. I love Broadway, and I love a lot of the stuff that I got to see here, even though I haven't had the chance to see them. You have.
Yeah.
Let me know. Break down the winners. Break down some of the new stuff you've seen.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely curious to see your impressions just from like the little bits that you've got to see, and if there's any shows that stood out to you as stuff that like you really want to see now. But I think that when we're talking about the big winners, the big categories, the winners in musical was The Outsiders, which you mentioned earlier. The winner in the best musical revival category was Merrily We Roll Along, which we mentioned earlier. I talked about it a couple of weeks ago when I saw it. And the winner in best play was Stereophonic. So a couple of
Bro, did you see this?
What are you talking about? Stereophonic? I got tickets in August, so I'm really excited. I haven't had a chance to see it yet, but I am hyped on it. This is the one that I think this is the one that I think I've heard the best like word of mouth on. The buzz on this is really good. It has music composed by Will Butler from the band Arcade Fire, and it also is sort of like a loose interpretation of Fleetwood Mac recording Rumors, which if you know anything about that was like one of the most interesting and tumultuous behind the scenes of an album, just in terms of the like incestuous nature going on in the band and stuff. It's just like a really fascinating canvas. Like if you were what was that show? Even Daisy Jones and the Daisy Jones
Yeah.
and the Six.
They're just gonna be
Also,
making content out of that band for life.
yeah. But they got a chance to actually perform, because even though this competed in best play, there are some original songs in it because they are playing a rock band. And normally the plays don't get a chance to have a performance during the Tonys. They made an
Yeah.
exception because this one is such a sensation.
It was good. I was looking at them, and the guy who won the award, he's right there in the yellow. I
Mhm.
was recognizing him from something, and I'm like, where is he? Where is he? Where is he? I know he's done TV or movie. Test Pattern. He's the boyfriend from that movie
Yes.
who keeps pushing her to go to the
Thank you. I did.
doctor. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what? He wins the award, gives a great speech, had a really nice, like, very cozy jacket on. But I'm zooming in on this girl, and I'm like, where are you from, bro? She's doing the performance, and I'm like, I know I've also seen you in something. Succession. She's
Oh,
Jeremy's
she's
assistant.
Kendall's assistant. Oh, so they're
They're
both on
both on
Broadway right now.
Broadway.
Then.
Yeah. We're gonna get to him, but yeah, this was the one where I was like, nah, the Tonys felt like an advertisement for you to go buy tickets to see this play.
Yeah. Yeah.
It broke the record, 13 nominations. You and I know Oscars, I think, are at the 14 mark right now, but 13
Right.
nominations is the record. It beats Slave Play. I always forget. Damn, that
Mhm.
that thing really shook things up.
Yeah.
It had the most wins, I think, of the night, if I'm not mistaken, most noms, and I think definitely made the biggest splash. What else did you have?
Well, so yeah, that was as we mentioned, the winner in best play. The winner in best musical revival that we talked about was Merrily We Roll Along, which, I was very happy to see it win because it's such a fantastic production of it. The way that it's directed, the revisions they've done to the book, but most notably the cast. Like, it's got this really incredible trio at its center, and two of the three ended up bringing home awards.
She should have
Daniel
won.
Radcliffe. Yeah.
Yeah,
I actually don't know
yeah.
which category Lindsay Mendez. She lost to Keisha Lewis Evans, who was the lead of Hell's Kitchen, which is the Alicia
Uh,
Keys musical.
yeah. We'll get to that one. We'll get to that one. That makes sense, though.
Yeah,
But
yeah. But
yeah, let's talk about the
Lindsay
winners, though,
Mendez
for sure.
Lindsay Mendez was incredible. Let's start with Daniel Radcliffe, who won his first Tony. Just so incredible. I mean, I think there's been this like outpouring of love for him because so many of people in our generation have grown up with him, and
He's a
we
legend.
all
He came
hear
out
these.
the other end.
Yeah, right. We all hear these cautionary tales of like the horrors of child stardom, and we see, the actors who've gone on to like not live what we assume are happy lives after
Yeah.
childhood stardom. And to see this guy who seems so genuine, so down to earth, so just real and sweet and good and kind, and
Great
it's just,
speech.
yeah, it's just so exciting, and he's so incredible in Merrily We Roll Along. I think it's also just really great because Radcliffe has challenged himself so much as an actor post
Yes.
Harry Potter, right? Like, he's been on Broadway 5 times now. He attaches himself to all these really interesting indie movies from mostly unknown directors. Like, would we have the Daniels without Daniel Radcliffe right now? And
Mm,
his work in Swiss Army Man.
mm.
So I think this, in a lot of ways, this feels like a crowning moment for him, where he's no longer like just Harry Potter, he's Daniel Radcliffe, and I don't know, that makes me really happy for him.
When he went out to get it, I like the announcement bit that he had where the person had mentioned that Broadway was the one place where he could truly be an artist and not just Harry Potter. And I
Mhm.
agree. Like I was saying, not just in the way that you get to perform on stage, it adds an extra level to it, but he really hones in on his craft. I would love to see this play, but I think you got to see the other one that I did, the fraction of a truth or whatever it was with Bobby Cannavale.
The Lifespan of a Fact.
He
Yes.
blew me away in that thing, dude. I thought he was incredible, and that's when I knew. I'm like, damn, he's next up. Um, I was so happy
And
for him.
yeah, and speaking of your desire to see Merrily We Roll Along, before we
Is he
move on,
touring?
he's not touring. However, we did get news
Why you
that
do this, bro?
Merrily is being filmed by the same company that filmed
Okay, that's good.
Hamilton.
That's good. I like
Yeah,
that. Okay.
so they're
Shh.
filming it for posterity, and when you film it
Okay.
in this way, there is sort of a promise that it'll get some kind of release, whether that's a
That's good.
theatrical or just on streaming. So you will get a chance to see this trio in this production, even if it isn't
And everybody
in
else,
person.
yeah. Is this still going?
Yeah, it's still going, I believe, for another month or two on Broadway. Supposedly the
That's
ticket prices got jacked up, so there, but it's it's a good time. I mean, yeah, please make it out, dude.
Damn.
It's worth it.
I know Appropriate. That was the other one I wanted to see. I know that one ends
Oh,
June
dude.
30th. We'll get to
Yeah.
it. I do
We'll
want to
get to it.
comment on this, on the recording bit of it.
Oh, yeah.
That with that one being recorded, I kept looking at the nominees, when they would cut to little segments, and I'm like, oh, this is a recording. Like, I don't care if it's like a regular camcording. You do have shots of this. You have shots of Appropriate. You have shots of Hell's Kitchen. All of these different ones right there. And then they cut to the Jeremy one.
My boy.
It is just stills. No cameras allowed.
No cameras allowed in a Jeremy Strong play. Wait, I don't know if I even told you that because I got the chance to be on stage during Enemy of the People. They specifically asked Caitlin whether or not her shirt was a Succession shirt. I think like he's put a rule, like I can't be distracted by Succession merch during my performance.
What was she wearing? Like they would have said no
shirt, but it I guess. I mean, they could have asked somebody else to be on stage.
That's crazy. You look too much like one of the Roy. You can't out of it. That's wow. All right.
Yeah.
Let's keep it going. Staying with these guys though.
With Merrily, yeah.
So happy he won. But dude, I did not realize this was his like DiCaprio win. That Groff has been that royalty on Broadway that just never got the Tony.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of like at least especially for like this younger generation, kind of a Broadway king. He emerged in Spring Awakening as this real force, and
really good doc on HBO, by the way. Watch it. Very good doc about it.
And like theater's a bit different than film in that, like, for most people, they're not making a new show every year, and especially a guy like Groff, who's gone off and done Mindhunters and gone off and done Frozen. Like, it's not like he's been on Broadway that often, but when he is, it is so memorable, whether it is that Spring Awakening performance, whether it is the iconic performance in Hamilton as King George. And here it's just he got his opportunity to lead a show in a way that like accesses the full range of his talents. And I mean, I don't know if it feels like, I saw the DiCaprio comparison too, and in some ways it's right, because it's kind of the guy that everybody's wanted to see take the stage. I don't know if he's like toiled quite as long as DiCaprio did, but it is like this really awesome moment for people who like me, who were introduced to him like 15 years ago at this point, and thought he was such an incredible talent.
But it's like dog years. A film's a film.
Yes.
And it gets to live on. But like when like you say, you don't just make a little movie, you dedicate yourself to the show. So
exactly. Yeah. So
great speech. I know it was like the last
fantastic
performance
speech.
Incredible stuff. So
and I don't know if you've seen any of the clips going around on social, but there's a really fun moment where in Merrily We Roll Along, his character wins a Tony Award. So there have been spontaneous standing ovations during the show when his character gets that Tony, and I just would highly recommend checking the clips out on social if you get the chance. It's really powerful and awesome to see.
Is it fair to say
you like their performance?
Yeah, it was great, and that's why maybe a hot take, but I don't think it's hot. I think she's the best one out of three.
She is kind of incredible in the role.
Yeah, I'm not saying a mile, but like a kilometer.
I mean, she brings so much character and just nuance to it. There's a moment actually at the end of their performance where they all kind of harmonize. And in interviews, they've talked about how Jonathan, who, a king of Broadway, Jonathan looks at her to make sure his pitch is right. And she sort of signals with her eyes if she should go up or down. Like she's on it. She's incredible. Like she's done. Incredible. She's done it. Wicked. Like she's a Broadway legend in her own right.
Beautiful stuff. I always recommend 21 Chump Street. I think you still catch it on YouTube. What's his name?
There we go.
From In the Heights is in there. It's good. It's decent. All right. What other stuff in the Tonys do we got?
Yeah, I mean, we could talk briefly at least about Jeremy Strong winning the Tony for Enemy of the People. I thought
was that the only?
I think that was the only one that Enemy of the People won. Yeah, it got a couple other nominations, but he is really, really incredible in the show. And I think it's just this really cool moment where we're seeing an actor who has been around for a little while and has done a lot of character work just really ascend. He's got his Emmy, he's got his Tony, he's halfway to that EGOT now. No reason to think he'll stop here. Oscar and Grammy.
You're gonna have to read an audiobook. No, but that's a good one.
What about L to the OG? Maybe he finally puts out that full album.
That's a Razzie, bro.
Yeah. But speaking of popular film and TV actors who are now Tony Award winners, you want to talk about Sarah Paulson Inappropriate?
Bro, I thought she had already won one.
Yeah, I mean, she feels like she should have, right?
Yeah. Well, really quick though, I did not know Jeremy Strong was a Steppenwolf alum.
Oh, well, that makes a lot of sense in a way, doesn't it? Like his dedication to the.
It made me want to go watch another Steppenwolf play, whatever it is. But yeah,
I like that he. I like that he also had a shout out to the ushers in front of house staff. Like it was good, especially for that show. It's really vital.
What they have to deal with.
Sarah Paulson. Yeah. So Sarah Paulson leads the show Appropriate, which thankfully I have a ticket for next week.
This was my most anticipated one, to be honest. Even over Merrily and everything, this is the one where I feel the story is what I want to see on stage.
Yeah, it's got like what seems like a really interesting story of sort of like family secrets becoming revealed. Like reminds me just on description alone of August Osage County, which is one of my favorite.
Dude,
Broadway
that's
plays.
What it was. Yeah, there was something.
A little bit. Yeah. But the word is that this play is incredible. It was the winner of Best Revival of a Play, which beat out An Enemy of the People for that category. And she took home Best Actress as well, which was a really stacked category. I don't know if you have the nominees in front of you. But among the people she beat out, I believe, was Rachel McAdams, who I just saw in Mary Jane. And Rachel McAdams is really, really incredible in this play where she plays a mother of a child with cerebral palsy. And it's just so like lived in and real. Like she's got that warmth that Rachel just exudes in films like what was the Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, where she just recently was playing the mother. Yeah, like that. Take that and triple it in terms of the performance in Mary Jane. Like it's just a really, really wonderful performance in a really like touching, beautiful play written by a woman who dealt with similar issues with her daughter. So it just has all these like little details of like the difficulties of that care and the existential nature that you go through in a situation like that. I found the play to be really, really powerful.
Nice.
And yet it did not win over Stereophonic. She did not win over Sarah Paulson.
I may be able to see one.
They actually, if we circle back to Stereophonic for a second, I believe they extended it through the end of the year. So at least for that one, you might have some chance, some time.
Stereophonic looks crazy, dude. I want to see that one so bad.
Yeah, all right, it's really, really good.
Other winners, other nominees that you would shout out that may have not gotten something, but
do we want to talk about some of the other performances? The Eddie Redmayne MC in Cabaret kind of lit social media aflame a little bit. I don't know if you had any thoughts on his performance there.
Luckily, I was warned, so I knew that the moment this image was coming out, that it was going to be funky. It was going to be a little weird. Would you go to this experience?
I've been on the fence about it. Like there's a lottery entry website where you can like enter to
full prize.
And I'm even on the fence about entering the lottery for Cabaret.
You don't even know about the free tickets.
Yeah,
the breakdown that they did was that they it's in the August Wilson Theater. They built it from like scratch. They said as soon as you enter, you're like in a speakeasy cabaret environment.
Supposedly the staging of it is really interesting. Like the play is sort of called like Cabaret at the Kit Kat Club, and so they make the theater like the Kit Kat Club, and it sounds intriguing for sure. I feel like maybe the experience of like the whole spectacle of it would be a little bit better than it was on the stage, where it felt a bit awkward, and Eddie Redmayne's singing voice felt a little bit Kermity.
It's always felt Kermity. My two things would be, one, I knew I had recognized her. She's what's her name from Glow. Took me, but I was like, I know
Gail Rankin, who's also in Cabaret. Yes.
So a lot of different TV, movie, Broadway interplay there. But to me, it's a show that does something that I do not like. If I want to go see you perform, I don't want to be a part of the performance.
Yes.
I
There
don't. I
seems like
can't.
there's some heavy
Yeah.
audience interaction, and I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. But
Yeah.
it looked interesting. Looked interesting.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sure.
very eccentric. But look, I did think it was interesting. The choreography was good. Weird,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
It was interesting. Like he was like tapping around, going through them and stuff. Um,
I feel like it would be
seems
a
like he's
pretty
on.
well directed musical. I'm not so sure about those performances, but maybe it was an off night.
Who else?
The Illinois performance, which featured that choreography from Justin Peck,
Which one,
who
right?
won the award also for best choreography, and who if you're a movie fan, you're familiar with his work in Steven Spielberg's West Side Story.
The new.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
this is
damn.
another one that I have tickets for later, and it made me very excited for it. I mean, I think it just looks beautifully rendered. I don't know.
Let me know. I missed this one when it was here in Illinois, but
Yeah,
I know people are now going to keep saying Illinois because that's technically how you say this play. And
gonna
R.I.P.
deal with that annoyance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not sure how much else stood out. I don't know if you had any thoughts on Suffs
Oh,
or
so
The
yeah,
Outsiders,
yeah. Let's do
which
Outsiders first because it was
yeah,
Rachel. What's her name? Angelina's
Angelina Jolie.
producer on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
She got to announce it. I know it won the big award as well. I thought the performance was pretty interesting. They all do that
Mhm.
thing where when they walk out, they stare at the camera. This one had the hardest stare at the camera. The guy just came up, just posted up on it. They had rain coming down, which I like. I think it was one of the last performances because I felt that stage. I don't care what ShamWow they put at the bottom, it was going to be soaking wet. This one intrigued me. I did not have this on my radar, but I really like the book. I like the book more than the movie, and this felt like it would probably be an even better adaptation.
Yeah,
As
that's
much
the
as you
thing,
want.
right? Like, I'm not a huge fan of the movie. We'll talk a little bit about the movie when we get into some Tribeca stuff, but it just wasn't one that stood out for me because there's a lot of movies that, as you were mentioning earlier, make their way to the Broadway stage at some point in an
Yeah.
adaptation, and this just seemed like sometimes it feels like a real like a cash in, like they're just trying to play off of your
Yeah.
nostalgia for it. But you know, that's probably not the case for a movie for a musical that won the Tony for best musical, right?
Yeah.
The direction behind it seems really incredible. That
Yeah.
you were mentioning all the set design
Performance too.
elements and the
Yeah.
performances. Yeah, so I'm sure that would be pretty incredible to see live.
The one that won best lyrics, which interestingly enough, she went up to go get the award and then she performed it like literally 30 minutes
Mhm.
later. Suffs about the suffragette movement had a politician go up and announce it as well. You got tickets for this one?
Not yet. Yeah, I
Not
don't
enough
know. I
matches.
don't. I've been seeing a lot. Maybe if I could get a lottery ticket for this one, I don't know.
Have you heard good things? Have you just heard like it's important?
Well, I mean, it got a lot of nominations, so I
Got a lot of
actually
nominations.
don't know anybody who's seen it yet. But
Okay. I thought she
there's
was
got to be
funny
some
when
quality to it.
when
Yeah,
she
yeah,
talked
for
about it.
sure.
She could be an auctioneer because she talks so fast. Hell's Kitchen. This was, I think, another really big one in the way that they pushed it, in the way that they had a massive performance for it. Like you said,
Empire
the
State
lead
of
ended up
Mind with Jay
winning.
Z.
We're going to get to that, sir. We're going to get to that. Um, you got tickets for this one? What's the buzz on this? To me, not to like pin it in a box, but it's like, oh, gotcha. So In the Heights did well. Got it.
Yeah, and also like the Alicia Keys of it all. Like I guess
I
I
thought it
sometimes
was
worry
one
with
song.
no, yeah, like it's a
Whoa,
bit of like a jukebox musical in that sense, and I don't know.
damn.
I'm a bit hit or miss when it comes to the jukebox musical style. I prefer like an original Broadway music, but I don't know. I mean, the performance was good.
Yeah, her performance was good. Again, you had brought up everybody else who was nominated. I don't know if you had another preference or someone you were hoping to see, but she seemed pretty good in the show. The set design
Yeah,
seemed pretty decent. I think
yeah.
somebody else won for this as well, if I'm not mistaken. But it was the Alicia Keys Jay-Z moment. I'm gonna let you talk before I say what I gotta say. But she came out to perform with them, right?
Without
And
Little
then
Mama.
well, okay, why would Lil Mama be at the Tonys? Where did this come from? Why would this have ever been a
Well,
thing?
I think I don't know. I don't know if everybody's just relying on one moment from years ago.
And then she decided to go to a secret stage to go perform with Jay-Z. Thoughts?
Um, I mean, I think that generally speaking, I thought there were some clunky elements to the broadcast itself, and
Okay.
you can definitely see it in moments like this.
You know, she is on stage and then leaves. So as you can see
Yeah.
here, she really is expecting us all to believe that I'm wearing the same thing. So if I rush out and hop into another thing, like you think we're stupid, bro? This man
Right.
wasn't in the building. This man wasn't there on the damn day. This man pre-recorded this and sent it in. I am convinced as ever. This is the corniest
Yeah.
thing I've
Oh,
ever
yeah.
seen. They said they were rolling out another song. I think this man knows that Empire State of Mind is like the new version of New York, New York,
Mhm.
in that it's being played everywhere. He's getting his
Yeah.
coin money from any person who plays it. Like you said, it's supposed to be a jukebox musical with her songs. Takes place in Hell's Kitchen. So they're obviously using Empire State of Mind as well. They're gearing up for whatever the next song that they're collabing with, for whatever it's going to be. And this felt like more marketing for it. I have no idea why he was there, but I thought it was the cheapest thing. It's like this man, Alina said, is that he needed the escape route. He
Right.
could not
And
be in the building. It's so pointless. Why are you going to perform but not perform?
especially for the Tony Awards, right? Which are about live theatrical performances to do.
Pre-recorded. I
It
thought it
just
was lame.
feels
I'm
real
sorry.
corny.
It was really corny, dude. Like they're all
Yeah.
like, "Oh my gosh, Jay-Z's on the screen." Yeah, he's on my screen too. How special
Yeah.
is that? I like how someone had from there had said, "Is this the Grammys or is this the Tonys?" I thought it was lame, dude. I thought it was
Yeah.
very lame. Be there.
Yeah. No, it definitely felt like it was at the wrong award show.
I swear. I'm gonna rewatch it just to see what she forgot to put on for the for the continuity. Let me
Right.
rush off the stage when we press play. Nah, I thought that was lame. What else? I saw
Uh,
there was a
I'm
Great
trying to look
Gatsby
at.
award. I think it was for costumes.
Yeah, it won costumes and it wasn't nominated for any other award, which is a
That's funny.
an interesting title to have.
Yeah. The boys. I don't know if you're seeing that one from the Book of Mormon.
Oh, Gutenberg with Andrew Reynolds and Josh Gad. No, unfortunately that one closed and
The
did not
hell?
did not get a chance to see it. That's the thing
That
that's unfortunate is a lot of these plays and musicals are closed by the time that the Tonys roll around. Like I would have
that's
loved
lame.
to have seen Amy Ryan and Liev Schreiber in Doubt, but it's
Hell
gone.
yeah. That's another one that didn't get any awards, and that looked fire.
Yeah,
That looked
yeah. Another one that
crazy
didn't
good.
get any awards that I got to see recently was Uncle Vanya, which is
Yes,
the Russian existentialist drama, which intriguingly
of course.
stars Steve Carell as Uncle Vanya, not the person that I would imagine in that role, but I actually thought it was pretty solid. You know, like he kind of brings the character to him. It's a lot funnier than I think most
Wait,
renditions of this play.
wait. So you saw it with Steve Carell and not Harper? I thought Harper was.
William Jackson Harper is in it as well. He plays the doctor, and
They're both in.
he's
Okay, gotcha.
yeah, and he got nominated for it. And in fact, I'd say he is the best part of it. He is really, really incredible in this play. Just brings so much nuance to this character. He kind of has this commanding presence on stage. Like he's a little bit hard to predict in a way that makes you want to like watch his next move.
Okay.
I thought he was excellent, and this is a play that had a stacked cast. You're bringing up a picture of Steve Carell with Alison Pill, who I thought was also really good in it. You have Alfred Molina, Jane Houdyshell,
Ooh!
Anika Noni Rose as well.
Wow.
Like this is a incredible cast. But yet it was William Jackson Harper who just blew me away in this production.
That's why I got the nomination. Do you know how long it's
Mhm.
running for?
Vanya is, I think, only a couple more weeks,
Damn.
like
But
appropriate. It's
you would recommend it.
yeah, especially if you haven't had a chance to see Uncle Vanya, like it is a classic for a reason.
Hmm.
I think they're able to make it feel modern in some interesting ways in this production, and it's a really beautifully staged production as well. They do this really interesting thing where they kind of play some music on stage that kind of serves as like a score almost. It's really well done.
Okay. I'm just gonna spitfire some other ones that I know had been discussed. There is a Notebook adaptation.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that it?
I've
That
heard.
intrigue you?
I mean, not hugely. Again, like I'm kind of hit or miss on these like adaptations of movies back to the stage. If I hear
Yeah.
some good things, I'll check it out. But I usually don't rush out to those ones. The ones that I I'm hoping I'll have time to catch for. It's Mother Play that you're highlighting there, starring Jessica
Yeah,
Lange.
dude.
Very curious about that one. Obviously, Jessica Lange is a legend. The other one that I'm also really interested in is Patriots, the one that stars Michael Stolbarg as a young Vladimir Putin.
Okay. How
Yeah,
long is that run for?
all these ones I think are wrapping up in July, unfortunately.
Damn it. What the hell?
Yeah,
It's
man,
like the
gotta
opposite
get
of the
here.
Oscars where they're not out yet and they're winning awards.
Mhm.
Here they're winning
Yeah,
awards and they're done. Lame.
exactly.
Okay.
But as you mentioned, a lot of these, even if it isn't the like really official looking filmed production, they do have that kind of like back of the auditorium uh camera filming.
Mhm.
And as I mentioned, the New York Public Library usually has access to those, so
Well, I don't
I don't
got
know,
a
get
public
yourself a
library
library
card.
card.
How I'll borrow yours. I'll go in there with you.
Yeah.
We'll just spend a whole day not watching movies for wherever and go in there.
Exactly.
Um, and I think that's pretty much it. I'm trying to go through the rest of them. You had
Yeah,
mentioned Enemy for the People, Grey House, Water for Elephants. Never cared for the movie, but that is now a play.
yeah, I've heard
Back to
it's
the
better
Future.
on the stage than it was in the movie.
That's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'm curious overall though if we have any other intricacies, be it in New York, be it in on the West End that I know has got a couple of really good ones out right now at the moment as well. What your favorite on Broadway on stage production is at the moment, be it a musical, be it a play, all that good stuff.
Definitely.
What your favorite performance was out of the Tonys as well. Um, yeah, let us know your thoughts down below as we wrap
Yeah.
up this intercut Broadway section for the 77th annual Tony Awards.
Yeah.
Keeping it to New York though, we got Tribeca. Zach, take it
Mhm.
away for the 2024 Tribeca Film Festival. Did you
Yeah.
get to go to any physical screenings? Because I got to stay at home. I tuned in online.
I was planning to, and I was so excited. I had a whole schedule lined up. Like I go through the Tribeca ropes, and I'm like, I'm not gonna do too many. And then I got myself really excited about a bunch of movies. And almost at the exact start of the festival, I contracted COVID, and I didn't get to make it out to New York for any of the things that I was excited for. But luckily, Tribeca did have a bunch of digital offerings. So, like you, I was watching from home. I got a few links sent to me as well. So, thank you to all the publicists who actually respond to the emails. Not everybody does respond to the emails, but thank you to those of you who do. There are some really standout narratives. There was a couple good documentaries, and I do want to talk about some award winners. But I wanted to start things out with a movie that, while it played Tribeca, I believe it is in theaters now. So if you are curious, you can find a showing hopefully close to you, and probably pretty soon it's going to be available on digital. Treasure, which is directed by Julia von Heinz. This is a film about a music journalist in 1990 American music journalist in 1990 who travels with her father, who's a Holocaust survivor, back to Poland to visit their childhood home and retread through their family's past. I told you that this was basically Lena Dunham doing her version of A Real Pain, because this
Mhm.
one stars Lena Dunham as the journalist, and Stephen Fry plays her father. And it's got a lot of similar elements in navigating your family's trauma and the inherited aspects of that, the legacy of Jews in Poland, and the sort of interesting situation given like about like ownership and historical homes and aspects like that. um I thought there's a lot of really interesting ideas here, similar to A Real Pain. I don't know if I connected with it on an emotional level quite the same way that I connected with A Real Pain. But the plot here is pretty interesting. And there's a lot more um in this movie than in Real Pain, diving into the whole idea of the transfer of ownership and the legacy that it has into the modern day, and the idea of like moving forward or honoring your past. I think there's a lot of really intriguing ideas here. Sometimes the performances don't always hold up for me. Maybe because I know this culture really well, but like Stephen Fry to me, it felt like he was trying to do an impression of my dad. He didn't sound like my dad. You hear the British accent slip through a few times, but I found this one to be pretty interesting.
Okay. What you're saying is that a Real Pain trailer playing right now in theaters, sir.
Exactly, yeah. If you cannot wait for a Real Pain, I think this will be a decent substitute, even if it's not quite as great as I thought a Real Pain was.
Decent. All right.
Yeah.
And it's in theaters now, so if people are interested.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one that I found intriguing is a film called Darkest Miriam. This one is directed by Naomi J. It was on my radar because one of the producers of the film is none other than the illustrious Charlie Kaufman, one of my favorite writers of all time. So I was hoping for some of those Kaufmanian vibes, Kaufmanian. I don't know how to stylize that. But instead, I got something that's a little bit more patient, more elegiac, more poetic in certain senses. I think at its best, Darkest Miriam tonally has echoes of films like The Last Black Man in San Francisco or Patterson, that sort of like really calm everyday life, the beauty of these little moments and these interesting character details. You have Britt Lower, who you may recognize from Severance, starring as a woman who works in a library, and she starts receiving these really mysterious and somewhat intimidating notes that kind of cause her to go into a bit of an existential crisis. And there's times where this feels like it's about to turn into a suspense thriller, and then there's times where it feels like it's turning into a romantic comedy, and then there's other times where it's just sort of like a sad indie drama. And some of it works really well. Like I kind of dug the vibe of this movie, even if it doesn't add up to a whole lot. There's some really there's some kitschy, kind of cute moments, some really interesting sequences in terms of how they shoot them, how they structure them. I don't know if this movie's all the way there, but if you are into that kind of like airy, atmospheric vibe of those films like Patterson, or maybe even like A Perfect Days, something that has a bit of a dark edge to it, I'd recommend checking out Darkest Miriam. It's not as great as those movies, but it will remind you of them.
And I saw she had like 2 or 3 movies.
Yeah, well, we could jump to The Shallow Tale of the Writer Who Decided to Write About a Serial Killer, in which she plays the girlfriend to John Magaro's character.
That is her. Damn, bro.
Yeah, he's all over Tribeca.
Oh yeah, so I got to catch this one. Yeah, let people know what this is. Oh, it's Steve Buscemi as well, like we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I mean, you say let the people know what this is, but I just said the title of the movie. It's The Shallow Tale of a Writer Who Decided to Write About a Serial Killer.
But he's also getting a divorce.
Yeah. So John Magaro, who we like a lot in movies like First Cow and Past Lives, plays the titular shallow writer, and Steve Buscemi plays the serial killer that he meets one day, who hopes to tell his story through John Magaro. And I think there's a lot of sort of you can feel what this movie is trying to be, right? Like it's trying to be kind of like a sardonic, I don't know, like what am I trying to say? Like a sardonic unpacking of genre tropes, and like a sort of like reversal of this guy's fortunes, in that he like finds himself adopting all these like lessons from the hitman as he tries to pursue this like better version of his life. But it just doesn't really have a whole lot of like
it's
style to it, or verve to it, or energy to it.
Not the worst though. Not the worst.
No.
Right?
No,
but it's like
just
so lukewarm that you're like, what are we doing here? Y'all lucky I like these actors a lot.
Right. And it's the kind of thing where maybe if it wasn't those actors, you might not give it the time of day at all.
Right? Give it to a Coen Brothers. Give the script to them and they might have done something special.
It just sort of felt a little bit empty. I also think like it does a thing that I hate, where it does a fake out flash forward in a way that felt super, super underwhelming. I don't know. It didn't really add up, even though like there's moments that'll make you laugh.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, again, it's mostly the actors are pretty good here, but the movie itself kind of a miss.
All right. I'm kind of in the same realm with you. There were some funny
Yeah.
moments when they're doing therapy because he's a serial killer
Yeah.
who needs to pretend like he's their marriage counselor. And then the ending, like it's good on paper. It's like, damn, that's where you're taking it. And again,
Right.
if it just had a little bit same actors, but better direction, I think would have been better.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to talk a little bit about Boys Go to Jupiter?
Yes, because I saw this director's short film, Tennis Ball Day Off. I don't know if you ever got the chance to see that one.
It is a short that features our buddy Carson Runquist.
Hey, as a voice, I can't remember what he voiced, but I think he was a tennis ball. This is in the same vein of an animated story where all of these teenagers are pretty much just chilling. They're hanging out. They've got some funny voice acting there, but they're just hustling to try to make money. It was quirky. It was cute. And it definitely was a feature-length version of the stylish short film that they made. I enjoyed it for what it was.
Yeah. It's got like at its best, it's got a little bit of that like Boys of Summer way back kind of quality where it's like the reckless youth and fun of adolescence. But it's also got this like really interesting pace and tone to it.
Well, that's what it is.
I really like the director Julian Glander's whole animation style. Like it kind of it looks a little bit like Playmobiles, but also a little bit like 8-bit video games. Like there's this thing it does where he kind of approaches things from a diagonal, almost like you do in like the view from a strategy video game, you know, like a tycoon video game or something like that.
I was gonna say it's like those little things you put on the life board game.
Yes.
You put it at the top and you're like following them around, but he gives them so much personality. And I agree with you. There are moments that the cast is able to really make like these really funny interactions. Then you get like a little stint of it just wavers a bit until you get another
meanders,
a nice little moment again. So that's the only thing about it. Like if it was tight, and that's why I say I was like in the short film, it worked really well. As a feature, you're waiting for another really big moment to hit. So I can see why a lot of people are really going to love this because the cast is pretty stacked. Yeah, Elsie Fisher, Julio Torres, again, popping up over here. Sarah Sherman, a really good voice cast. No one's bad in the movie.
Yeah, it just maybe the hit rate is a little bit low, or like it just needs to be tightened up, as you mentioned. It is the kind of movie though that makes me want to put this director on my radar. Like I think this director is going to make something very, very good.
Probably the short already did that for me.
Yeah.
But I'm still there. Yeah, I'm curious to see if they're going to stick with animation too, because I do like their animation approach. So
yeah, and that's the other thing though, is I really do want to put it on people's radar specifically for the animation, just because I think we get so many animated films that just kind of like look like other animated films, and this has a wholly unique look to it.
Before we get into the shorts program that I see you're covering there, and I got some shorts as well. I got 4 other ones just to cover really quick. Beacon was the only midnight horror short or horror feature that they had on the platform, and it's supposed to be Damien Bashir, who finds this woman who gets like crash landed onto his island where he's kind of like the lighthouse guy, and he believes that he's protecting people from these sirens, you know, these killer mermaids that are out there. And of course, from her perspective.
Sorry, I was just going to say the description made it sound like Normie the Lighthouse, like if Robert Eggers didn't direct The Lighthouse.
Yeah, I would say that the story's been around before The Lighthouse, but it is that where it's a paranoia tale of like he is concerned and trying to make sure that she's okay, but that also he's protecting her from, you know, this mythology that he believes in. And she's like, you're psycho, man. You probably don't even run this place. You're here to hurt me. And it's this back and forth that keeps playing up until the end that I think sticks a landing that some people will be split on, because it definitely is a message movie that hits you with a message that people may not want to hear, I guess. I think the actors are good. Maybe the direction, if it was a little bit tighter, would have been more interesting. Because there's a couple, even a short, that kind of plays with this idea of like, is your perception of what's going on kind of creating the problem? Not the best horror one, but again, the only horror that we got that was on there. So if you're interested, keep that one on your radar. I would say catch it at home. But a trio that I have over here would be Come Closer. I think this is one of the best shot films of a woman whose partner or brother passes. I'm blinking on what it was, but in that, the secret girlfriend that they had, she ends up connecting with, and they have a relationship.
Mm.
Very weird. Very.
Yeah,
I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, Italian.
it's
Italian. It's like
it's
Italy, Israel,
Israeli and
Copa.
Italian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you catch this one?
Yeah, yeah. It was a really interesting film because it's kind of like dealing, as you mentioned, like with the grief, but there's also this sort of youth culture thing to it. The performances in it are particularly good.
The
Um,
performances and the
it
way it's shot is why it's a standout. Yeah.
yeah, it actually ended up winning the award for best viewpoints film,
Oh,
which
it's
is
coming.
kind
Oh,
of
my bad.
it's their sort of like next category, the sort of experimental ish
God.
category.
All right. Well, I wouldn't even say it's that experimental. It's just
It's
a.
not,
It's not. No, we've seen definitely
yeah,
a lot of things that are a little bit more out there, but it definitely takes the plot and its story and its characters into places, especially as she
yes.
starts dating, the partner of the deceased. But there are a lot of shots in there that just look beautiful, or like, damn, she's really burning her tongue with a lighter. Just things that they put up on screen that never come off as boring, maybe cringy, maybe like, whoa, I can't believe you're going about it this way. But I still found it fascinating nonetheless. So keep that one on your radar. Another one, I'm not sure if it won anything, but there's a film called Color Book that stars William Catlett that we knew as Lucky from another feature that we really liked in 1001. And now he's playing another Lucky here, but this time the father to a child who has Down syndrome. And the whole story is shot in black and white, and he's just trying to get him to a game. He wants to see a baseball game, and it's the struggles that they go through to get there. It's a nice little indie film. This is honestly what I expect out of Tribeca, a movie that I think will do really well on streaming. It was like delightful while also going through the ups and downs of what they have to deal with because the mother has also passed. So it's him trying to also reconnect with his son. And then the final one that I have here out of the international category, maybe it won something, you let me know. I'd say arts. Oh, I can't hear you. I think you
I'm
clicked.
off. I muted myself in order to cough earlier. Yeah,
Gotcha.
no, Arze, they didn't say it in the movie? I don't
I
know.
don't remember, bro. It's in another language, so I was busy reading. But this is about a mother whose child helps deliver all of the pastries that she's always making, and in order to up the production, they get a little moped to be able to get things to places. But then, because he's so busy trying to date a girl, it gets stolen, and now it's about them trying to get the moped back. It was interestingly enough, like it's not reinventing anything, but it was a good little adventure that the mom and the child go through. It's a drama, but they sneak in a lot of comedy in there, and I thought it was one of the standout international films that was out there. So
Very
give
cool.
that one a gander if you're interested. But talk about this controversy, and then I'll talk about the actual good shorts that were out there.
Yeah, so Tribeca, among its offerings at the festival this year, had a program called Sora Shorts. And for those of you who are not familiar with Sora, it is a open AI advanced video generation model. Essentially, it
Yes,
is
yes,
a
yes.
AI filmmaking tool. One of the things that is very controversial right now around film spheres, and obviously AI was the center of a lot of the work stoppage strikes negotiations that we experienced last year. But yeah, if you've seen some of the videos of like uh, Sora shared on social media, like
That's the big one, yeah.
yeah, they're like pretty incredible in terms of what they can do, even if they all have a kind of like otherworldly quality where they fall in that uncanny valley where there's always elements of them where you can tell like it's not real. There's something wrong with how they look. I don't know. It's interesting though because like this is a thing that people are obviously very vocally against right now. There's not a lot of interest in what um what Sora and other generative AI video programs uh, will do for filmmakers when it comes at the expense of hiring production crew, hiring actors. It's
Hey,
something that
unless you're this man.
yeah, I mean Tyler Perry doesn't really that just streamlines his whole process, I guess.
That was the big
Um,
one when they announced that he's those. I'm never traveling anywhere. I'm staying put here in Atlanta,
exactly. Yeah.
and
So like
yeah, cutting out a lot of people.
so like AI films are not something I'm personally interested in, and it's also something that is a strange thing to sort of include in your film festival, which is otherwise about the film craft. And here we have this like element that is potentially interfering with that film craft. Although Tribeca, aside from being a film festival, as you mentioned, it's a TV festival now and a games festival, and it's got technology presentations. So
Right? They dropped the film, yeah.
yeah, they're making it a big tent. I was curious to try and check this one out. It was late enough in the festival that I had gotten over my COVID diagnosis by then, but then I realized it's in the Tribeca Film Center, and that makes a lot of sense. I don't think they were trying to attract a whole lot of attention. They put it in a theater that has maybe 100 seats tops, maybe less, and I'm sure a bunch of those were Sora employees or Tribeca
Oh, yeah,
employees.
I'm sure the AI filled it out.
Exactly. But one of the things that really stood out about the announcement about these the Sora Shorts program was the filmmakers attached to it, and particularly one filmmaker attached to it, Nikyatu Jusu, who,
Yeah.
if you recall that name, she is the filmmaker behind Nanny, the Sundance-winning film from a couple of years ago, a really interesting kind of folk horror film about a undocumented immigrant who is the nanny to a wealthy couple. Really interesting film that I think we both liked out of Sundance. I don't know if we thought it was like the best film we saw
But it
at
was
that
interesting.
Sundance Film
We
Festival,
wanted
but
to
yeah,
see
like
what she was gonna do next,
absolutely.
and it's this.
Unfortunately, it seems like the thing she's interested in doing next is making AI generated films.
Ugh.
She tweeted this out saying, "Sora is wild, y'all," and she posted this still from her short Spirit of 4 young Black women who are not real. They are AI generated. She said, "Crucify me now. Get it out of your system because this tech is here
Yikes.
regardless of the ubiquitous fear." And just as she asked for, she was crucified by social media. She
She not
became
know
the
how it
main
works?
character. She became the main character of the day on film Twitter. She changed her profile picture to the "This is fine" dog before just nuking her account completely.
Ew.
Yeah, I don't know. It's also interesting because one of the people who disagrees with Nikyatu Jusu is Nikyatu Jusu in a tweet from a year ago where she said, "Can't stop thinking about the various ways AI will be used to replace living, breathing, minoritized artists already struggling to tell their own stories. AI will become mock representation, an empty mimicry of Black and brown people's light commodified and vomited back to us." So I don't know if Sora AI just opened the checkbook. I mean, I believe
It's
one of
called
the things that's
commas.
I mean, Nikyatu Jusu, like she had a lot of trouble finding distribution for her film, and it's a shame
Yeah.
that
Ended
a
up on
film can
Prime, I
win
think.
Sundance. Exactly. So I wonder if some of that just like struggle when you make this film that's obviously like a real labor of love and passion, and it wins Sundance awards, and even that you still struggle to kind of find acceptance from the industry if that pushes you towards stuff like this. But regardless to say, it generated a lot of controversy, and then the event happened, and I literally could not find anybody tweeting about it. I found one person who went to the event and tweeted about it, and just like, "I'm happy to be here," and nothing about the movies. So I don't know if they're good. I don't know if they're bad. But it happened, and it's probably not going to be the last thing to happen. So it's just worth keeping an eye on. We always are interested in like what these film festivals are doing and what they're including. And we've talked about how like film festivals have like TikTok sections and stuff like that now as they try to adapt towards the culture. And it'll be interesting to see how much of a role AI continues to play in film festivals.
Look, I think you and I can see AI as what's going to be a tool, the new updated form of CGI, and it's going to help with a variety of things. You and I don't blacklist it completely, like people have been told to do so. But this is, I mean, I didn't even know about the other tweet. I knew about the new ones. Like, just answers their own question. It's like, yeah, you just
Right.
replaced all these actresses.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
And
you
your
just went
crew,
a route that does,
and
and your
yourself.
crew, and yourself almost to a degree, because once you make enough of them, they're not going to need you.
Mm-hmm.
You're just going to add to the pattern, to the data, to the algorithm, and you're done. That's pretty goofy, but
Yeah. No,
okay.
I mean, look, I feel like there's probably going to be a person who figures out a way to use generative AI in an artful way. I have yet to
I
see
think
it happen.
I think it has, and we don't know about it. But that's why I say it's like
Maybe.
CGI. It's like CGI where we're not questioning majority of the stuff that they do for TV and movies, because if
Right.
it works, you're not looking at it sideways. But yeah. All right. I got some shorts made by humans.
Let's talk about them.
All right. Documentary section had a couple of good ones. I'm going to begin with this one over here that is about depression. It's called Depression is a Beast. And it follows an actress who I saw in Terrifier 1. And I think she's in 2 as well.
Cool.
Bro, I hate when they don't pop it up, so I can't even show you what she looks like. But it's pretty much a documentary where she's a talking head kind of describing to you everything that she's gone through dealing with depression, giving you the ups and downs of it, clinical stuff, but a lot of different imagery and things that they put together, maybe even AI, about what it's like to go through it. And I thought it was very interesting, almost like a memoir of her experience growing up and then leading into acting. There was a twofer of motorcycle docs, one being The Solace of Sisterhood, that talks about 2 women who get together to be able to create this bike club, whereas Motorcycle Mary was supposed to be one of the, I think this is like a 30 for 30 short about the one of the biggest female riders, who, as she says, is like, it's not that I'm a female rider, I was one of the best riders, and how she came to because of her brother who got her into the sport and then tragically passed. But to her, that wasn't what was going to stop her, because she realized it's all about how much you commit to the sport. I think that would play as a really good double feature. But my standout was one that I was not expecting, bro. Black Hercules was badass. It's about this dude who's just so jacked and ripped. This feels like just a segment of something bigger. I thought this was just gonna be a montage of dudes just working out, but they get into the culture of it, and not a little bit of the routines of it, the impact that they have. And by the time that it ended, it felt like I had seen a trailer and I wanted more. So I'd be curious to see how they would expand on that, and what more they could build from it, because this dude would like work out with Schwarzenegger, towered him. So that would be a couple of the documentary shorts. In terms of the animations, there was a couple of good ones. The 2 that I'll shout out here, or I'll make it 3. Buddha was interesting because we've been talking about cats a little bit. This is about a cat who keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger because it eats everything in its way. And if I'm not mistaken, it may even be a stray cat. And this like older lady has to deal with it eating everything, maybe even the whole house. I love the textures in this. It's like very stop motion like, and I think it's definitely a standout. Nate and John was another one about a barber and the next door. I'm blanking on what he was, but the guy who also works next door, and their relationship throughout the years. He's a black barber, he's a white guy. They come in and they're always going back and forth about like how to get his hair cut. But eventually throughout the years, he ends up bringing his kid. And I thought it was a very cute tale of these 2 and their relationships, not just personally, but within their job. But the best animated short, easily, in my opinion, was In the Shadow of Cypress. It's 20 minutes long. This is the one that I'm rooting for to possibly make it all the way to an Academy nomination. I could even see this one being elongated to a lot more, but I thought this was a pretty good one. Check this one out if you are interested. My narrative ones. There's a lot of narrative ones, dude. I'm just going to name as many as I could. The White Rabbit. Mobsters move in next door. This mom keeps seeing it, that they're doing all these backdoor deals, all this crazy stuff. And then one day her dog eats their pet white rabbit and she decides to put it back. Very interesting. I'll leave that there. Favorites. Both of your kids, I think they get stung. Something happens. They bring them into the hospital, but they can only save one. Who are you picking? The dad has no hesitation picking one. Alarms. This one was honestly fantastic. It is a guy who is pretty much running a construction site, and everything that could go wrong goes wrong. It's like uncut gems in a construction workforce. I had kind of guessed where it was going to go. It goes there, but I think it succeeded in the way that it wraps up. I could see this filmmaking team going on to make a really good feature. Another one that I can definitely see becoming a feature is this one called Robbie Ain't Right No More. You may recognize the actress Madeline McGraw from The Black Phone. I think she's a really good up-and-coming actress. Yeah. Her brother comes home from war, and it's a very good metaphor of like him not being the same, but they play in fully that something has infested him. And I love when they're able to play a metaphorical thing, but also keep to the lore of whatever this fantastical entity that may be in his body. This is one where I would love to see this as a feature film, or just a team move on to do something else. Robbie Ain't Right No More. Very well done. Thriller. Dirty Towel was probably one of the ones that was getting a lot of buzz, as you can see right there, about a young girl who was told by her mom that you have to keep, your virginity, your sanctity, because nobody likes to reuse a dirty towel. And once you're dirty, it doesn't matter. And it's her experience after she sleeps with someone for the first time. Pretty good performances. And I think this one had probably one of the better narratives, even if it could have been a little bit tighter in the directing and on some of the scenes. But I like what it was saying. The Cost of Flesh is a horror film, all shot through the perspective of an eyeball because the girl is paralyzed. Bro, I don't know if this is one of the best ones out there, but this is what I like to see, some innovation. You were literally just seeing the reflections off the eyeball. Really good stuff. What do I have right here? Ripe. I'm blanking on what this one was, but I have it pretty high, so I'm gonna say check out Ripe. Oh, I'm remembering what this is now. This one is incredibly shot. This is like a Luca film. It feels like Call Me by Your Name, the way that she's out on vacation. She's trying to learn some Spanish, and she gets along with this other girl who starts teaching her, just the ways of the place. They've got some ups and downs, but I really like the way that it was shot and the performance between the two of them. But my top three, NEA, Medellin, cab driver, just showing you the ropes, breaking the fourth wall, showing you slang. I thought it was very well done. You might have to play this in halftime speed because he talks very fast, but he is showing you the ropes around everywhere. Like the movie just begins with him dropping somebody off at the hospital because they got shot, or I think they got cut. They got something. But it was really good. I thought the lead performance was fantastic. But my top two are Ebb and Flow, which is about this girl living, bro, somewhere in Israel, Palestine. They're crossing somewhere, and it's about just someone trying to go on a date while there's bombs happening in the background. I could see this be a feature film. I thought the way it covered this was incredibly done. The performances were fantastic, and it just really puts you in the headspace of these teens who are like, just they're still living their regular lives, right? But it's the obstacles that they have to go through just to be able to get on the stage. But my number one, saw it twice. Pasariño, bro. The performances are incredible from these two little girls. They are hysterical. They're trying to go to this game so that they could see their favorite soccer player. This girl's got a whole plan, a map on how they're going to sneak in to be able to get the autograph. But their mom, who's taking them, is so disconnected to what's going on with them because she's still dealing with a divorce. I thought it was beautifully done as a mother-daughter story. I think the way it's just shot is, I maybe shot on film, excuse me, and it looks beautiful. The shots they're able to get of the soccer stadium, but again, the performances from these two were they were hilarious, dude, because they're able to go from some really comedic, outlandish bits to then again this mother-daughter story of like, you're not paying attention to me, which is why I'm so focused on doing anything to get this autograph. It gets so outlandish, but it all makes sense. It has some just hysterical editing. You'll be zoomed in on them, they'll zoom out, and it got some of the best laughs, even out of the features. So Pasariño, one of the best ones out there. My only 5-star out of the fest. Definitely worth it. Looking forward to more people catching this one. But that would be my shorts out of the festival. Take it away with the docs.
All right. Yeah. Let's talk about a few more docs out of Tribeca. One that jumped out to me was Bomb Bomb, the Sister Nancy story. You, in all likelihood, have either heard Bomb Bomb or some sample of it. It is perhaps the most sampled track in hip hop history, all over a bunch of your favorite songs. And it comes from a really interesting person in that Sister Nancy is this Kingston artist, and she came up at a time when, first of all, there weren't a lot of MCs in general, but female MCs specifically, there were even fewer of, and her ability to just command the room just like the boys did, made her this legend in some ways. But then the legacy of this song has carried her legacy through decades and decades of music history. It's a pretty standard music biopic in the way that it's assembled, but the story itself is very interesting in how this song grew pretty organically, and she wasn't receiving any of the revenue from it, so she had to then turn around and fight to recoup what she was owed for bringing this iconic piece of culture into the world. I really enjoyed this one, and we get a lot of music biopics. Luther, which Luther Never Too Much, which was one we talked about out of Sundance, was also at Tribeca this year, and I think I think you're at least guaranteed to have like a good sonic experience, and the story is compelling as well. So I definitely put that one on your radar. I know you would enjoy that, given that you're always you usually vibe with a good music documentary.
It's one of the best samples in Life of Pablo too for Famous. So
exactly, yeah,
bum.
iconic sample. I wanted to talk a little bit about Bratz. Did you catch this one? Did you hear much about this one?
You know me, I go through it, and if it's about to come out, I don't watch it off of that limited time we have for the window. So I know it's out on Hulu right now. I saw a little bit of the beginning.
Is it already on Hulu?
But bro, as before the festival ended.
Oh, jeez.
Tell me.
Well, I wish I could recommend this one because it is a story about the Brat Pack, the iconic collection of young actors from the 1980s who burst onto the scene and sort of took over Hollywood. And if you're a fan of movies of that era, you're familiar with people like Emilio Estevez and Ali Sheedy and Demi Moore and Rob Lowe and the director and star of this documentary, Andrew McCarthy, who was part of the labeled Brat Pack and has carried that sort of tag with him and developed all sorts of like unhealthy connotations with it in the time since then. What I thought was going to be sort of an interesting look at this period in time when these actors all sort of rose to prominence and what it said about the culture and what the movies meant to people. Instead, it kind of was the director, Andrew McCarthy, using this film to air his personal grievances over this article. Because, like, for him and for a lot of these actors, the idea of being in the Brat Pack sort of had this infamy to it, right? Like, they were called brats. They were thought of as these sort of, in some ways, entitled, young kids marching into Hollywood. And for whatever reason, the name stuck and became really iconic. But you know, uh, I think, I guess in some ways he feels like this really like affected his career. So it involves Andrew McCarthy going to Emilio Estevez's beautiful house, Demi Moore's gorgeous backyard, Rob Lowe's incredible kitchen, and talking about how hard it was to be called a brat one time in New York Magazine in the mid 80s. It just like, it's funny because he's talking to so many people who seem so well adjusted and he's so bitter about this thing. And then, like, I've actually never read the original article in which they're first labeled the Brat Pack, but helpfully somebody posted it to Twitter, and Andrew McCarthy's only mentioned even in like passing. There is one sentence about him.
He got astray, and that's what did this.
And he's just been bitter about it for so much time. It's really like it's like a classic, like, you should have gone to therapy instead of making this movie, because like he has this incredible access. He's talking to these iconic stars about the height of their careers. There's an interview section with Demi Moore where she's talking about how she had a choice between going to rehab and starring in a movie, and she's like, I got to star in the movie, obviously. And it's like, it's fascinating. But then he keeps returning to his like sob story of like, oh well, they called me a brat and I lost a movie after that. And then he ends up interviewing the guy who wrote the original article, like he's talking to Charlton Heston, like he's Michael Moore talking to Charlton Heston at the end of Bowling for Columbine or something. And he's like, he's too concerned with being like a nice, affable guy to even really press for the question he wants to ask. I don't know, man. It's so self-indulgent and not at all the movie that I think like anybody who is fascinated in this time period wanted.
Yeah.
Like Judd Nelson is like one of the centers of the Brat Pack. He doesn't even get Judd Nelson in this. He doesn't talk to Molly Ringwald. He doesn't mention Anthony Michael Hall by name.
Why would he, bro? Why would he? They knew better. They knew who was the brat in the pack.
Exactly. Like, they're all probably looking at this through a healthy lens. Like, yeah, it was a weird thing to be called, but it was the best period of our lives and careers. And he's just whining about it.
Yeah. Damn. Okay, that's a little bit different. I thought it was going to be more of honestly, I didn't even think they were going to get any of them. I thought it was just going to be like a look back, archives and
Yeah,
stuff. I didn't know it
which would
was
have
like
been
him
great.
personally. All right. Also, really
Yeah,
goofy to then call it Brats, so that then it just sticks. Goof, you
I
goof.
know, right? Like I just I don't know. I left the film feeling like that wasn't successful, and the more I think about it, the more I think it's just a complete waste of time.
Damn. All right.
Yeah.
Well, it is on Hulu.
Yeah. Luckily, those were probably that was probably the worst documentary I caught. Something a lot better than that is this interesting documentary called Driver, which is a sort of cinema verite style look at the life of female truck drivers, long haul truck drivers, and it just sort of you spend a lot of time sitting in the passenger seat with these different truck drivers as they navigate the intricacies of their lives, what it's like navigating these mostly male dominated spaces as a woman, and the indignities of it, and also the sort of freedom of it, because many truck drivers really are attracted to the kind of like freedom in some ways that the
Life
job
on the
allows.
road, baby.
Exactly. And you know, the central figure here is also fighting to kind of make things better for different female truck drivers. She's got like a group that comes together to discuss the plight of female truck drivers. So just a really interesting sliver of the world that like I've never shown a satellite shine on before or whatever. So it was really interesting to see that perspective. I always like this kind of cinema verite style when you're trying to profile people. So I would
Nice.
recommend that one.
I missed
Um,
this one, but definitely have it on my radar.
yeah. Another documentary, another really interesting one, which actually took home the special jury mention for a documentary feature, is Made in Ethiopia. This is a really fascinating documentary that takes a look at China's increasing uh, use or industrialization of Africa, specifically Ethiopia.
Yes, sir.
If you've looked at some products recently, you've seen that a lot of items that at one
Yeah.
time maybe said made in China are now increasingly saying things like made in Ethiopia. And
Yeah. There's a lot
uh,
of good YouTube videos on this too.
yeah, it's a really fascinating documentary that in some ways reminded me of the Academy Award winning documentary from a couple years ago, American Factory. If you remember that one, that was on
Woo! Yeah.
Netflix, because
Wheaties.
that's another one that sort of talks about like the interesting uh, marriage between industrialization, globalization, and differing cultures, and how
Yeah.
different cultures kind of approach their work-life balance. Here, there's also the kind of interesting element in that you have all these Chinese entrepreneurs who are settling down in Ethiopia and trying to build these plants, finding themselves and their country in a transition, right? Because they were once in the country that was the subject of this type of globalization. The factories were being built in their homeland, and now they're taking that to somewhere else, which is even lower on the kind of totem pole or a food chain, if you will, of world powers. So there's this reminiscing for a China that once was, and this looking to the future of China as a power over countries like this. There's the culture clashes that you'd expect from foreigners coming into a land and trying to dictate the terms of it. There's the dealing with the bureaucracy of it all, and it's just all really fascinating stuff. I thought this was a really excellent documentary.
Nice. I really like the down here. It's a good poster.
Yeah, very cool.
That's clever. I got a couple of other docs before we get into the awards that I see you have there.
Yep.
I think this one had also one Hacking Hate. I don't know if you got the chance to
Yes,
catch
that
this
was
one.
the winner for documentary feature.
It was decent. It's covering this reporter journalist who specifically knows how to go undercover, and I think the best part of the doc is showing you how she creates this web to find different people, how she uses AI and all these like face tuning stuff to be able to create these Facebook or different profiles to get close to the subjects that she's trying to investigate, and then obviously all the bullying that happens in return.
Mm,
Um, it's good. I think we have an increasing number of, like 4chan slash Facebook slash, fringe group documentaries that are out there. I
right.
was looking back at some of the meme ones that came out last year and even at the beginning of this year. And I was like ranking them for our midway. bro, I don't even know the difference between 6 like of these docs that have come out about how the internet and memes and all this stuff is being used against you and threads, and add another one to the list. I didn't think it was that bad. Not too profound either, but a good profile of her profile, and how she won an award for taking down this big neo-Nazi group.
Cool.
One that I did think stood out a little bit more was State of Silence. I don't know if this got anything, but this actually it may have gotten editing, if I'm not mistaken. This is about Mexican journalists and how all of the ones that stand up against the cartel get some of the most brutal punishments.
Yeah.
It's like beyond death, bro. They are sliced up because it's not just that they kill them. They kill them to make a message and then tell another reporter to report on that. It goes through a history of a lot of the people who have carried on the duty of trying to balance what would be their lives to wanting to tell the truth. And I think it is a really well edited film and really gets some really good talking heads in there. So check this one out if you are interested. I'm gonna get into 2 comedy ones right here. The first one is Memes and Nightmares. Did you see this?
No, man, I should have. I wished I did. Tell me about it.
I wish you did too, dude. It starts off interesting. It feels like a documentary that's going to get into how memes are used specifically on NBA Twitter, and this idea that it's become this whole language, and focuses on, I want to say his name's Josiah, King Josiah from NBA Twitter, who is like the dude who people were going to after every post game. The NBA players knew him. He always had the perfect GIF reaction, but then he retires, and in retiring, he uses this what's his name? I'm not blinking on his name. Who LeBron James go like this to?
Oh,
I don't know why I'm blinking on him. But he squints, and in that was the last meme he used before his retirement, and it gets J.R. Smith. It gets copyrighted, and it becomes this whole thing where the director brings the NBA Twitter King Josiah out of retirement to go figure out who took this meme down. There's one good thing about this doc, and it's hearing what J.R. Smith thought about that meme.
That's it?
Bro, I don't know what this Vice-ass documentary was doing at a festival. The second half of this doc, I need you to see it, bro. I don't even know. There is a twist in this documentary that is so stupid.
Oh, no.
It made absolutely no sense, and I wish they just would have stuck to this idea of investigating the culture of memes, what they represent. Everything else felt like a high school reenactment that I'm like, are you really expect me to believe this is a documentary right now? It was lame, bro. But yeah, that is out there. It had potential. This is going to be sitting on HBO Max. I'm going to put it that way. But sitting on HBO Max right now is the Hannah Einbinder Everything Must Go. Tribeca usually puts out some stuff. Last year they had the one from, what's his name? Stress Positions.
John Early.
He had his special premiere there, and I had hers there. And I think it's very interesting. She is very theatrical. She uses a lot of the stage. She uses a lot of music cues. You know, you can call it prop comedy. She is doing a very, very much a variety one-woman show. I really like it. I really respect it. My only critique for it, did you catch it?
No, not yet, but I'm curious about it.
Yeah, I want you to catch it.
Yeah.
The only thing is
directed.
Who?
Sandy Honig, who's a writer on the Eric Andre show, which is a really interesting match.
Okay, so I don't know her too much as a writer, but I've seen her appear in many places as like an actress.
3 Busy Debras and stuff. Yeah.
Thank you. I know they were in the Hulu History of the World Part 2. They had one segment on that. She directed Caller Number 9, which you just saw at South by, remember?
Yes. Shout out Patty Harrison.
So she directs this, and she does a great job because it's very much timing everything that she does on stage. And the only part of it is that it feels a little too orchestrated. You know, she's trying to like, let me go on this tangent. I'm like, but the tangent is so precise that it feels very theater kiddish like, where it's like, I can't believe this is happening. You do, because you rehearsed this. You rehearsed this several times. And I want to applaud that you hit the notes very well, but then it also feels a little, again, the cringy theatrical kid elements of like, I'm going on this surprise tangent now. It's like, nah. With the lighting, with the cues, they hit the cues down pat though. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it. I do think it is very much the type of stand-up special that she would do, but I'm very curious what Deborah Vance would have to say if she was in the audience. Hack season 3, definitely watch it. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Hey, well, we're talking about comedy. There's actually one that I did forget about. I don't know if you got around to catching Group Therapy.
I did.
Yeah. So this one is interesting. It's directed by Neil Berkeley, and it's essentially Neil Patrick Harris, for some reason, he's not even sure, leading a group of extremely randomly chosen comedians in a roundtable discussion about their mental health and how comedy impacts their mental health. And I think it's interesting to see funny people navigate this subject. Obviously, a lot of comedy is about pain and comes from a painful place, and it's that's how they turn it into something that is resonant. But this is a forum to discuss these things in a less comedic light. So you have comedians trying to be a bit more serious, but due to their nature, they'll still crack a joke here and there. I thought it was a pretty interesting look at like how different comedians handle their own issues and neuroses and whatever it has you, and how there's no like one way to chart that path through your turning your pain into comedy. It is like pretty random and unfocused. There's no kind of like cohesive thesis statement from
That
this.
is the word I was gonna say. It's missing a cohesive through line because they don't know each other.
That's the thing, right? Like it's a really random collection of comedians. It's Tig Notaro, it's Mike Birbiglia, it's London Hughes, it's Gary Goldman, it's Atsuka Okatsuka. Like I'm not sure if any of these people spoke before this event, let alone if they're friends or anything like that.
So you don't have the anonymous side of it because they're all being filmed. They have nothing to connect themselves so that they could really get deeper. That's not already on the surface. A majority of the time, they're recapping something that Birbiglia already did 3 specials on. This other guy already did. So it's like I already saw half of this already in y'all's own work. You're not bringing anything new here, but repeating it to them. This feels like something that would have been done during COVID that you released on YouTube.
Yes, yeah, and like that's not to say it's particularly bad.
It's not. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I wasn't bored. I wasn't like waiting for it to end, but I didn't take a whole lot away from it either. I think in a lot of ways your tolerance of it will go as far as your enjoyment of these people. If you are a big Birbiglia fan, if you are a fan of Atsuka, if you want to hear these people talk about this subject, that'll be enough for you. If you find them corny, you might find this corny.
Yeah. It was an interesting thing. An interesting approach, but I'd be curious to see what else they would do. It's also produced by Kevin Hart, but the man don't appear. So
right, I was kind of expecting something.
But, to wrap up, here's my favorite documentary. It's called Shelf Life. Did you catch it?
I did not. Tell me about it,
bro. Ian Chaney might be one of my favorite documentarians right now. He did that General. Yes, he did the Search for General Tso, which was incredible. Where he tries to search up like where did we get this Chinese food. Recently, he did one that I absolutely loved out of South by, the Ark of Oblivion, where he's trying to figure out what can he put in this ark to be able to keep, the memory of human nature. What is the best source of memory? Could it be DNA? Doesn't that store stuff forever? He decided to cover cheese, bro. And he did it again. It is fascinating. The idea of what cheese is, what it represents in our world. Is it a food? Is it a delicacy? Is it a mold? Is it just decaying rot? He gets some of the most interesting people to talk about this and what it represents, not just as a food, but in society. There is one dude who's so creepy in this because he's like, oh, this man wanted to bang the cheese. There's a point where he really sees cheese as almost decomposed humans, and it's his way of being a cannibal without being a cannibal. But he's a documentarian who is able to take something as much as just cheese and the shelf life to cheeses, how people are creating cheeses now that they'll never be able to eat because they won't be ready until they're gone. And the mortality of that. I find it fascinating. And I think he's one of my go-to filmmakers right now, to be able to take the most random subjects and make them really interesting. So Shelf Life, probably my favorite documentary out of this festival. And the guy just keeps hitting it. Keep that one on your radar.
Yeah, I'm absolutely adding that one to my watch list. Sounds really interesting. I do love cheese.
Let's wrap.
What's your favorite cheese before we get into more Tribeca movies?
The one in front of me? I don't know. But I don't know my cheeses like that. There's some good Mexican cheeses like Requesón and I just ate some queso fresco the other day. What'd you say?
Okay.
Queso, yeah. Panela, yeah. Some good. You?
Very nice. I'm boarding. I like a good Gouda. There's a Polish twaróg cheese that's really good in the soup.
Oh,
But I have trouble finding it here.
remember that in the last season of Curb where he had that cheese and he left it at the house as soon as he ate it?
Mm,
I wanted to taste that cheese. He
yeah.
was so mad when they ate it. Yeah. I got up my cheese game after this, Doc.
All right. Let's get into the Tribeca winners.
Yep. We got 3 right here,
Just
including one that I think was our top.
Yeah, just a couple of them. So let's talk briefly about Bike Chess, which I believe comes out of Kazakhstan. This is a film about a journalist who works covering different news stories, different, things that the government does. She chronicles for the nation, and in a lot of ways, it's sort of about like the the ways in which these nations sometimes try to portray themselves that feels a bit dishonest, right? Like it's she's covering this bike chess thing in the beginning, which the country is trying to put up as this like big achievement by their by their athletic department, but it's other countries have done this too. It's not even innovative. Like it's sort of going for this quirky, dry, bureaucratic slice of life comedy, like almost like the quietest Armando Iannucci property you can think of. And I just found it to be a little bit listless, a little inert.
Yeah.
There's some funny ideas here, but it's mostly a sleepy movie. It just kind of doesn't really get going.
Yeah, it's trying to be like an absurdist satire, but it doesn't
Yeah.
get that crazy. And the bike chess thing, well, why is it titled bike chess, bro? It's one segment.
Yeah, it's gone 10 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, like it's not bad. It's an interesting perspective, but it's like we know this kind of side of propaganda already and
Yeah,
what people do, but it could have gone deeper. So
definitely. Yeah, I was a bit surprised that this one won, even though it was one that I thought was going to be pretty interesting. It just didn't really
yeah.
hold up for me. I wanted to shout out The Knife because it seemed really interesting. It was on my radar. I did not get to catch this one because it was only available in person, but our buddy Merjani did catch it and told me it was one of the best films that he saw at Tribeca, and it won the award for best cinematography in a U.S. narrative. It is a movie that is about a young black family dealing with the mysterious appearance of a stranger in their home. It sounds quite unsettling. It's got Asia Naomi King, Manny Jacinto, Melissa Leo in a few roles in this as well. So a pretty good cast. I'm intrigued by this one. I'm hoping to catch it at some point.
Let me mention some other ones before we do our top pick. I'm
Sure.
curious on this Satisfied documentary. They said they had some links
Right.
and then they didn't, so that's why they got the scores that they did, I guess. But this is the one about Renee Elise Goldsberry and I guess kind of spanning her career. Obviously, I'll Never Be Satisfied is one of the best, just Satisfied, from the Hamilton soundtrack. But I'm curious to see this profile on her. Did you hear about this one, bro? Casa Bonita, mi amor.
I did. It is, I think, going to be going to Paramount Plus, and I really want to
I
catch
want
it.
to see this so bad. Trey Parker,
Yeah.
Matt Stone about that restaurant that they redid that's supposed to be like some Disney World. I don't even know. The restaurant was supposed to be like crazy because it was so like thematic and there was all these things
Yeah.
going on. And there was like the food was always different. There was no way it was a viable business model, but they bought it up because it meant something for them. I'm curious on
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah, I mean, if you've watched South Park, you're familiar with Casa Bonita. It's at least got that one iconic
Yeah,
episode, if not more. Speaking of South Park, I mentioned this to you, but
you
I actually
did.
went to South Park or in the interim. I was in Colorado for a little bit and had some time to kill.
How was it?
There's an actual South Park. It's like an old mining town. It's like so you think that had like they had gold mines and stuff there. It's like an old Western in open air walk through museum now, which is kind of cool. But I feel like it's what's funny about going to South Park and seeing just how small of a town it is, it really puts into perspective
Okay.
what Matt and Trey are going for that show. Like it's a town so small that on Main Street they had flags of all the seniors that graduated from high school in the town.
How's Integrity Farms?
I couldn't stop there. I wish there was time.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. I think it's gonna be funny. I think it's a documentary as well. But then my top one. What in the world? I did not see this. The parents meet for the first. Okay, this is the short. No. This one. I had this on my watch list, bro. You heard this one? Bad Shabos.
Oh yes, this was one that I was trying to see in person and then got COVID.
An engaged interfaith couple are about to have their parents meet for the first time over a Shabbat dinner when an accidental manslaughter gets in the way. I want to see this so bad, bro. I
Yeah,
want to see
same.
this
And it's
so
getting
bad.
good reviews too.
It's getting incredible reviews. The cast is fantastic. You got Kira Sedgwick in there. Trying to pull up the rest of the people who are in there. Method Man's in this, bro. Like, I don't know. I feel like this was one that's big enough that we're gonna see it in other festivals before it
Yeah,
gets its
for
full
sure.
release. So those are the ones on my watch list. Let's get to the number one.
Yeah. Let's talk about Griffin in Summer. An absolutely delightful coming of age story, which won the Tribeca Award for Best U.S. Narrative Feature, as well as Best Screenplay. There's a lot to really
Well
love
deserved.
about this little movie. It stars Everett Blunk as Griffin, a 14-year-old who wants to be a playwright, who is obsessed with theater and tries to mount a production starring all of his friends. Like, if you liked obviously there's a lot of really hilarious celebrities in theater camp, but if the parts of theater camp you liked were all the little kids who are dedicating their heart and soul to theater, this is the movie for you. Everett Blunk is so funny in his like uptight dedication to his craft. Like, he's like a little, like a tiny little adult in this role with trying to mount these plays about his parents' infidelity and fractured relationship. It's so funny. He develops this kind of crush on a local handyman. He's also dealing with his mom, who he has all these his resentment towards, played by Melanie Linsky. Owen Teague, who we just saw as the lead of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Yeah. Plays the handyman, and Catherine Newton even shows up in a kind of smaller role as the girlfriend.
I don't know about that accent. That accent was probably the only critique I had in the movie, bro.
For sure. But I just thought this was like so delightful, such like a knowing kind of tale of like coming of age and this sort of this desire to participate in the adult world before you're maybe intellectually and emotionally ready to be there. The dynamic between him and his friends I thought was really cute and fun, and it's funny, man. It made me laugh. He some of the stuff he says is so frank and just out of pocket. It's hilarious.
I remember I Like Movies from last year.
Mhm.
I think it's got that energy as well of like that little indie film to come out of these festivals that just has
I
that
Like Theater.
spirit. Yeah, it's I Like Theater. And I would even compare it a little bit because she ended up being in the movie. His friend Abby Ryder Fortson from you just mentioned earlier. Are You There, God? It's
Are
Me,
You There, God?
Margaret.
It's Me, Margaret.
It's got this idea of these like young kids trying to come together just to be able to, not just deal with this passion project that they have, but also like how much BS are we gonna put up with as well. Yeah, I thought that was really good. This was the one that you had recommended right off the bat. You're like, yo, get on these Tribeca screenings right here. Start off with Griffin. It's the standout, and I'm glad it won because it definitely is. Griffin in Summer.
Yeah, absolutely. It's for me easily the best film that I saw at Tribeca. I don't know if you'd agree with me, but
feature.
if you
Yes.
if you got one movie to put on your watch list from this festival, make it Griffin in the Summer.
666.
Griffin in Summer. I keep trying to add a
in
there.
Yeah, because it's the theatricalness of it.
But also In the Summers, which was a Sundance Award winner, played here at Tribeca as well, which made things confusing.
There we go.
But yeah, it was a pretty solid Tribeca, right?
I thought it was pretty decent. There's a couple that we're still looking forward to, but I thought it was a good amount of short films, docs, and such. Good rollout, minus the AI.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we've been going for a little while now, but do you want to run through some news headlines real quick to wrap things up?
Hit me. What we got?
All right. I think the biggest news that we've missed in the past couple weeks was Sony Pictures' acquisition of Alamo Drafthouse. Now, Alamo, it has a pretty outsized name in terms of film distribution. It's only the 7th biggest theatrical chain in the US. And I was
That's
pretty
pretty
surprised.
big, dude.
I mean, well, I was pretty surprised to learn these numbers. It's only got 35 locations in 25 different cities. Not nothing by any means, but Alamo, I think the real thing with Alamo is Alamo has come to represent a certain type of movie-going experience, because
Yes.
they were sort of the first theater to really prioritize the kind of like comfort, elevated experience with the really nice seats and delivery of food to your place. They are really strict about not allowing phones in screenings, so they're trying to emphasize the theatrical experience. And
Remember this?
something that yes, I do remember the Madonna
The
ejection.
best advertisement, bro. The moment you get kicked out, I was like, okay, they're about it. Keep going.
Yeah, they're real. They also boast about being the theater chain that shows the biggest variety of movies, whether it is
Yeah.
the retrospective screenings they do and anniversary screenings and stuff like that, showing big blockbusters and showing a bunch of indie movies as well. Like, even if you don't necessarily have an Alamo Drafthouse near you, it might be the nearest place to you that's showing this small indie movie that you
Yeah.
can't see at an AMC theaters or something like that.
Yeah.
So Alamo is a really important figure in US
Easily.
theatrical distribution. There's also some controversy around some of the people that are involved with the Alamo Drafthouse, but still, like, it has a really important role to play, which is why Sony Pictures acquiring it is so interesting. Now, are you glass half full on this news or glass half empty?
Both.
There's positives and negatives, right?
Yeah, you cannot deny that it's going to help and make a big difference, because now the studios are invested.
Right.
But there's a reason the law was enacted to make sure they weren't. That got pulled in 2020. Now theaters are allowed to be owned by studios. I was about to pull it up. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the 1948 U.S. versus Paramount Pictures case, which became the Paramount decrees, which basically banned the movie studios from owning the theaters, essentially owning the means of production and distribution, and putting themselves into such a situation where they could create monopolies or create unfair distribution models where like there's like a theoretical future where Sony uses their Alamo ownership to prioritize Sony movies in theaters, and maybe
it ain't for concessions,
wall to wall Crunchyroll releases, because Sony owns Crunchyroll and stuff.
Nothing but Uncharted 2 screenings. Yeah,
exactly.
Look,
yeah.
If Paramount is in the court case against anybody, I'm not vibing with it, bro. I can do a whole thesis on this one right here. I could do a whole one on the one against Google for YouTube, when Paramount sued Google for uploading clips saying that it was copyright infringement, only for them to figure out it was Paramount uploading it themselves because they were getting so many more views for their shows. I do not trust studios to be able to take it over, but that's where we're at. Theaters became department stores, literally multiplexes, where they were allowed to show any studio that was out there. Because, like you're saying, with Sony taking advantage of it, why wouldn't they? Right now that they've been able to purchase streaming services, which people always forget, cable conglomerates own them. Viacom CBS is what owns Paramount Plus. Was Universal's Peacock is really owned by Comcast.
Yeah.
Disney, y'all already know what it is. And Max, for the longest time, was under AT&T. And when it was Time Warner, one of the biggest quotes was the guy literally busting in saying, if y'all are not going to give us good reviews, why am I buying these outlets? Do you think humans have changed, Zach? Why would it not go back to the reason why the United States had to take this into court? Look, let's say the positives first, though.
Yeah. So the positives, right? Like, you mentioned all these big studios that own these streaming services. Remind me what streaming service Sony owns.
Nothing.
None of them. So
that
they
is exactly
are
why Will
invested
Smith
in
said
the theatrical model.
Yeah, that Bad Boys was the best option to come back and reboot because he knows that Sony has nowhere to put the movie. So you're
Exactly. Yeah,
right.
they have to put it in theaters.
But even if somebody else buys a theater, right? Then that's the scary part. I don't want to get into the negatives yet, but the idea of
Right.
them owning a theater gives them even more incentive to make sure that the theater is doing well. They're not rushing to push it to VOD because they're not no longer doing a
Exactly.
40% split. They're getting the concessions, which is the reason why AMC, Regal, and all of them survived to begin with. Everyone knows that that's what
Mhm.
keeps theaters going. Now they've
Yeah,
got it.
so if it means that a major movie studio is trying to make sure that the theatrical experience is valued in a way where people will continue to go to movies to continue supporting that business, this is going to be good for the industry. But there's a whole bunch of ways in which this could go wrong. And like
Bad.
I don't know if this is the future that we should expect. I don't know if this is a future that's likely, but what's to stop Disney from coming in, buying AMC and making AMC's exclusively
There you
show
go.
Disney movies, right? Or
It's the
closing
exact point. Yeah.
half of them. Yeah.
Without them owning it, do you not remember the Hateful Eight Force Awakens debacle where they were literally fighting each other for the theaters and were breaking contracts so that Tarantino
Right.
couldn't get his stuff? Now you're
Yeah.
telling me they're going to own it? Yeah. Think of A24. A24 is not going to get play unless they own a theater. Why would they ever want that competition? They'll mess around with showtimes. There is literally an invested interest in whoever owns the theater to be able to push things. AMC right now can play whatever they want, and yet they never play Netflix movies. Even when a Martin Scorsese film gets nominated for Best Picture and they do the whole recap, nothing. I think it's going to help studios want to push the theatricalness of things, but eventually I do see a lot of people who can't see independent movies right now have it even worse, because if they don't have, like, if Regal ends up getting bought out by Universal, then they won't be able to see the stuff if they don't have the Disney bought out theater or the this
Right.
theater over there, and then you're stuck with, unless you have a music box or something that does stay independent, they're screwed.
Definitely.
Hell,
Yeah.
there's even a chance that when the music box needs to pick a really big movie, or the IFC Center has to get a really big movie, that they're not given the movie because Disney or Sony or whatever is like, nah, go to our exclusive theaters. Don't go there.
Exactly. Exactly. Right. So like this isn't the move that scares me. It's the move that comes next that I think scares me more. Like Netflix bought a couple theaters. They didn't buy a whole theater chain.
Yeah.
And if that's what Hollywood sees as the future, I don't know. It could get sticky, as you mentioned. It could be complicated. Now, will Disney buy into what is like largely considered to be a dying business? I don't know. But maybe if they think that, like, in order to prop up their own business, they need to revitalize the distribution models, then perhaps, yeah, like I see a world where this makes sense. I understand Sony's reasoning for, particularly because Alamo is sort of considered like the more elevated experience, right? Like
Mhm.
they want to show their commitment to the theatrical model by hopefully making Alamo the premier place to see a movie. I
It's a
just hope
really
that
good buy
they
for them. Yeah.
fulfill that. Yeah.
It's a really good buy for them, because when you think of those screenings where people are like dressed up as people, I remember the Nick
Right.
Cage one where they all had the faces and stuff. When we go to South by, it's more than just a fancy theater. They actually go and make that screening experience special. I think of the Scream
Yeah.
ones where they were all dressed up as Scream. Alamo is the place that is doing that, so it's a perfect buy for them business wise. But yeah, we'll see. I know you got several by you. That's where I was able to catch a lot when the favorite.
Yeah.
Shape of Water was out there. We got ours near Wrigley. It is beautiful. It's a fantastic theater.
Mm-hmm.
Way too damn expensive,
Yeah.
but
That too.
they're really nice theaters. If you're a cinephile, make sure you have that on your bucket list whenever you're near one. But
It's still
we'll see
better
how they
than an
move it.
iPic.
Everything's better than an iPick.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of studios opening up retail locations, have you heard about Netflix House?
Is this the thing where they're just gonna have like a couch?
Well, it seems like they're doing a whole kind of like entertainment complex. Like it's not like a full-on Disneyland amusement park kind of thing,
Wait.
but
Okay, run it down. I have an adjacent one for Sony. Go.
yeah, so they're apparently Netflix is planning to open up two locations of the so-called Netflix House. One in the King of Prussia Mall in Pennsylvania, and the other in Dallas, Texas. Both are set to open in 2025, and they're supposed to be They will be featuring shopping outlets, Netflix-themed eateries, and experimental activities. Activities like the glass bridge from Squid Game you can go and do. It feels like kind of like almost like a Netflix Dave and Buster's or something like that.
It is 100% that, because Sony just did that. Opened it last year near us.
Really?
It's called Wonderverse. This thing
Okay.
is, you walk in and it's whatever their biggest movies are, filled to the brim for the arcade, all Sony stuff. They have an entire bar for Ghostbusters that's hidden as a speakeasy. They have like it's like a mini theme park in the sense that you can do arcades, you can go eat in places, but then they have like 4 exhibits, an Uncharted VR thing, a Ghostbusters like kind of ride. But what they do is, like you were saying, it's Dave and Buster's more than it is a Six Flags. You pay per the experience. The arcade's fine. I get the arcade, but it is $30 to do the Uncharted experience.
It's pretty steep.
I went and it was empty, bro. I went and the prices on this stuff was way too exuberant.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's them freaking out of like, oh, are theaters going to last, or do we need to do another thing? It shows me that they still know a theater or a mini amusement park. They know that the money is still in people leaving their houses. So I know you just said that it's a dying model for theaters, but I don't believe that. I believe they killed it themselves when they started flipping things to their streaming services. Ready? Here's the magic trick. Don't. Once they buy the theaters, they won't. They'll make sure that you go out and see it. Disney needs a theater because that's where they make all their money. They fired everybody the moment that they didn't have these big tentpole Marvel movies.
Right. Well,
They
here's
had
the thing
Disney,
that really
Star Wars, like,
yeah. Well, here's the
They're
thing
gonna-
that really
they're gonna
gets
bring
me though about this whole Netflix house idea. Why aren't they putting a movie theater in it? You're going
Because
through all
they
the
don't.
length of making this like gigantic event space. Put a theater in there, show your movies.
Okay, so CBS All Access was Paramount's thing, and then they're like, that's not a good game, let's do it Paramount Plus. Actually, let's combine Showtime. So what if this is the physical embodiment of that, where they haven't bought the theater yet, so they're creating this, and then eventually they'll find a way to finagle it. They're sold separately now, but then eventually they'll realize every theater needs an arcade, and if you have a movie arcade, you should probably have a movie theater.
Yeah, and hopefully that's what they realize. Maybe it's like a small investment in the idea of like physical spaces, and that'll lead them to want to do more stuff, because they do own a couple movie theaters. I'm just surprised that they wouldn't want to, include this among them.
You just bring the theater with you. It's in your app.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, man. I mean, I have a lot more interest in going to see like Hitman on a big screen than going to do the Hitman lunch experience or something like that. But I don't know. I mean, we go to festivals like South by Southwest that do a lot of activations around upcoming properties. There was a pretty intricate one with the 3-body problem at this year's South by Southwest, and I often find myself well, yeah, the Fallout one was the best one for sure, but I often find myself thinking like, this is so much energy spent and effort and money to something that is so fleeting. Like, it lasts for a day or two in one city and then it's just gone. And to me, it makes sense to have a more permanent location for stuff like this. Like, imagine if that whole Fallout exhibit that we had wasn't just a 2-day pop-up in Austin during South by Southwest, but something that existed for 3 months in Los Angeles or King of Prussia or something like that, that you could then go through.
Universal, when they do their horror nights and they pay the people the entire year that they're getting prepped for that moment. Yeah, because you would have a landing place for it. We'll see, dude. We'll see. The Sony one didn't work.
Yeah. Sundance is moving forward in their process of figuring out where the future of the festival will be. They've narrowed it down to 15 different cities, and while not all of them have been announced, there are a few that have made themselves known. Utah is still in the running, as is Park City in Utah. Atlanta, as well as some other Georgia cities like Athens and Savannah, are putting in bids. San Francisco was at one time in the running, although I believe it is no longer.
Hell no. Isn't that funny, bro?
Yeah.
What is this, The Bachelor? Why are they announcing what didn't make it? You are the weakest link. Goodbye. Like, what are they doing? Just announce what's going to be.
I want all the updates. Turn it into a reality show and play it at Sundance next year. This is, apparently there's some places in New York and North Carolina that are also in the running. So just from that list of locations, Anybody jump out to you? Any place in particular seems like a good landing spot for Sundance?
Dallas.
Is Dallas on this list? Or is that just
I'm
Sundance? Or
submitting it.
Netflix? You just
Is
want to spend
Dallas
more
on?
time in Texas.
I just want to go back to Texas. Why not?
Yeah. I don't see Dallas on here. Georgia doesn't appeal to you?
No, I've seen the traffic.
I would love upstate New York. That's an easy drive from me. Much easier than the drive out to Sundance, for sure.
Yeah, but you want to go to a different state. You know, that's the whole
Yeah.
point of that.
How about North
beginning of the
Carolina?
year.
I've
That's actually
had
kind of
one
interesting.
really nice beach trip to North Carolina.
Yeah,
So,
that's an interesting one. I didn't even like consider that as an option, but that would be a change of pace.
yeah, for sure.
Especially if we're still considering the exact same time slot at the beginning of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's the other thing, right? If we're sticking to January, I don't know if I really want to go to upstate New York, but
Yeah, that's another reason why I just out of Chicago, because when no one's waiting outside for that.
yeah,
bro.
yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, I believe they should be making an announcement in the next couple months, so we'll definitely update y'all.
Final 15
on that.
cities. So funny.
One piece of news that I think we should at least mention, although I don't know how much we can analyze it even, but Sherry Redstone walked away from the deal to sell Paramount to Skydance, or at least merge their companies. This was a long rumored deal, as Paramount has sort of been a sinking ship. The company has a lot of debt and not a lot of like hot prospects really in its coffer right now. So it feels like the sale of Paramount is going to be inevitable. Like the company a few years ago was valued north of 10 billion. A couple years ago, it was north of 5 billion, and that number just continues to fall. Yet there's something that Sherry Redstone, who is the, I believe, largest shareholder in Paramount, refuses to take with this deal. She seems pretty committed to staying in charge of Paramount as long as it will allow her to be in charge of it. What do you think about the news of that Paramount may not sell as quickly as we, I think, recently believed it would?
Yeah, I believe we men call that ego, and this sounds like your average double or nothing play, and
Right.
she is holding it for no damn reason. It is inevitable, like you said. That is the word, through and through. It is sinking like crazy. You are the most embarrassing streaming service that there is out there. It's not even close. It's
Yeah.
not even close. And then your theatricalness has plummeted to a degree that you have disrespected directors like Martin Scorsese. What they did with Annihilation was a travesty. They have nothing in theaters, and they have nothing on streaming to root for. It's
Right.
bad.
Yeah, and you know the thing is, like, there's just not that many companies or people out there that can afford a $5 billion entertainment conglomerate. So when you say no to one of them, you're kind of limiting the number of potential suitors you have pretty strictly.
Yeah.
I just don't know who else is gonna like pick up the pieces here. You know, Sony was rumored for a bit, but I don't know if that's still going through. You know, they didn't.
Well, that's why the
Alamo
way
didn't
Sony
cost them
came out
that
with
much,
it.
but
Well,
yeah,
that's what I'm saying. The fact that they got
Yeah.
the Alamo over here, they've already built what Netflix is doing now. They already
Yeah.
did it 3 years ago. I think they were just letting you know we're getting Paramount. If they want to give it to us cheaper, we'll wait.
right. Yeah. So I mean, this is just an interesting story to keep an eye on. Obviously, it's moving slower than we expected, but something is gonna
I
give here
doubt.
because
You think she has something up her sleeve? I doubt it.
no, yeah, I don't think there's like some secret play here. I agree with you. There's maybe some ego involved or something, but something's got to give at some point. And
It's bad.
I don't love seeing the consolidation of different media companies, and obviously like one of the things just from a entertainment history standpoint that I think
Mhm.
people should be concerned about is the future of the Paramount lot, one of the most historic places in Hollywood, because that's part of this whole Paramount package. But
Mhm.
I don't know. All we can do is watch from the outside at this point.
We shall see.
Yeah. TIFF, one of our annual big movie trips to Toronto, they have announced several world premieres that will be part of this year's lineup. Excuse me, I have some hiccups. Excuse me. I think the most notable film that they announced is Night Bitch. It is a new film from writer-director Marielle Heller, who we love.
Yes.
She's done a lot of really good movies. And this one stars Amy Adams. Amy Adams, an incredible actress who has not been on an incredible run of movies recently, but I think everybody's sort of like waiting in anticipation for when she's going to make her Oscar run, right? I think she's 5 or 6 nominations now without a win, and she just is one of the actresses out there that really deserves one, which is interesting because the TIFF Tribute Awards this year will be honoring Amy Adams among a couple others. And the TIFF Tribute Awards have a pretty solid history of honoring people who would then go on to receive some Oscars glory. Some of their recent honorees have been actresses like Julianne Moore, actors like Brendan Fraser, who's there for The Whale. Coleman Domingo was honored last year for Sing Sing, and it feels a lot like Sing Sing could be a big player this year. So, if you take things like that as a sign, it's a really good sign that this might be a strong Oscar contender for Amy Adams.
I hope so, dude. Mariel Heller also has a really big presence there at TIFF. I remember they shut it down for the Miss Rogers one with Tom Hanks coming in and everything. So I can see them going all out for this. And let's hope, dude. That's a really good pickup. Makes me excited for TIFF.
I actually just found the tweet that had the recent winners of the TIFF Tribute Award on there. So in 2019, Joaquin Phoenix was the TIFF honoree, and then he would go on to win the Oscar for Joker. In 2020, Anthony Hopkins was the TIFF Tribute Award winner, and then he won for The Father. Jessica Chastain was the nominee in 2021 when she would go on to win for Tammy Faye, and then, like I said, Brendan Fraser before he would win for The Whale. So really strong track record there in terms of who they nominate. Of the other movies that they announced to be world premiering, any stand out to you aside from Night Bitch?
No. I don't know any of these movies.
No. So Night Bitch, we should also maybe mention, is the story of a woman who turns into a dog at night. Which I don't know how that's going to be an Oscar-winning movie, but I'm going to trust Marielle Heller.
I thought it happened already. I feel like there's another horror movie that did it a little corny, but I know this is based off a book, so we'll see.
Yeah. So some of the other movies that they announced, The Wild Robot, which is that animated film starring Lupita Nyong'o as the Wild Robot, looks pretty good. Resball, which is about a Native American high school basketball team. This is a Netflix movie that is produced by LeBron James and Maverick Carter. So intriguing there. There's the South Korean film Harbin, which got announced. The Elton John documentary Never Too Late, which will be world premiering there. But I think the other standout from this initial announcement is The Life of Chuck, which is a feature directed by Mike Flanagan. And this one stars Tom Hiddleston, Mark Hamill, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Karen Gillan, Jacob Tremblay, Matthew Lillard, and others. I'm don't know much about this one, but Mike Flanagan's directing it. I'm definitely checking it out.
Reverse time with the end of Chuck. Is that not Stephen King?
It does look like Stephen King. Is it maybe it's an adaptation of a Stephen King book? Let's check.
I have no idea.
But just original writer Stephen King.
Okay, interesting.
So he's returning to the Dr. Sleepwell with this one.
All right, and the man got The Exorcist.
Yeah. Big year for Mike Flanagan.
All right, beautiful.
So a lot of intriguing stuff at TIFF, and we'll definitely come back with more films once they unveil their full lineup.
Yeah, it's right around the corner. Getting ready for the fall ones. I think we've taken enough of a break from the early festivals, and it's time to get bombarded with like 300 more movies. But before we do, we have to give a shout out to the people who make all that possible, and that is the Intercutie patrons and members. That's the show.
The Intercuties, the only people dedicated enough to stick with us through 3.5 hours of a weekend must watch. We love y'all so much, and we really love the continued support, particularly from our Academy tier members who are Tushar, Cademan, Connor, Josh, May, Ricky, Joe, Wiley, Benji, and Matt, as well as our awesome producer level patrons, Yuden Veer, Toon, and Brandon G. All of them are amazing people who help make this show happen. And those amazing people get access to a whole bunch of pretty cool benefits, including early access to some Intercut episodes. If you are signed up to be a patron, you can take a look at our best Ryan Gosling movie bracket with Amanda the Jedi well before the public gets access to that video. You also get access to some updates and the Intercut exclusive Discord channel for patrons, plus an invitation to our monthly patron hangouts where we do a video chat with all of y'all. The next one's going to be on Monday, so not too late to sign up for this month's video chat and talk to us about movies or whatever you got on your mind. Support the show for as little as $3 over on patreon.com/intercutpod, or you can stay right here on YouTube and click the join button wherever it is on the page. Become a member and get access to a whole bunch of really cool custom emojis and banners, stuff that is only available to those loyal, loving patrons.
Beautiful. Other than that, let's move on to our coming attractions for the week. We have a bunch coming out in theaters, coming out on streaming, a lot of stuff over here. So let's begin it with the big release of the week, which I don't know how I'm going to feel about these accents, but the Bikeriders. It's supposed to be Chicago accents. I did not hear those in the trailer, but this was the long-awaited movie that got delayed from its December 1st release and is not coming out in the summer. Are you excited for this one at all?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is coming from Jeff Nichols, who is not a filmmaker who always hits, but has several hits on his track record. And I think he's a filmmaker who is interested in making the kinds of movies that I tend to enjoy. It's got a really great cast. Austin Butler, Jodie Comer, Tom Hardy, people who aggressively lean into their character choices. So I'm very curious to check this one out. And I've heard some good things. I've heard some mixed things too, but I've heard some good things.
Take Shelter, super underrated. Catch that one from Jeff if you can. I'm most excited because this bad boy's going to have the Nosferatu trailer playing beforehand. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Next one that we have is The Exorcism. Yes, Russell Crowe did have another Exorcist movie that came out not too long ago called The Pope's Exorcist, but this one's different because now the cross is on the other side of the poster. I heard this is garbage. I have my tickets ready for Thursday.
Beautiful. Yeah, I mean, it just the way that it feels so hot on the heels of the last Russell Crowe Exorcist movie, I feel like just says a lot.
Terrible.
Nothing good.
Nope. A good one, though, is one that premiered at Sundance, I want to say 2 years ago, and that is Fancy Dance. This will be coming eventually to Apple TV Plus, but it's getting a limited run. I think it was a pretty good one, kind of like a little thriller where she's looking for her sister's daughter because her sister has gone missing. That kind of gets into the indigenous culture as the young girls preparing for her fancy dance tradition.
That's the thing. It's got that whole element to it, but it's also this coming of age story, as you mentioned, because it's preparing for this fancy dance. So it's an interesting blend of those worlds and a really interesting profile on Native culture too. So if you supported Lily Gladstone in Killers of the Flower Moon, she's incredible in this one too, and it's got a more modern perspective on Natives too.
Another documentary that we got to catch at some festivals is Copa 71 about the Women's World Cup that was broadcast, but then kind of scrubbed, even though it had more views than some of the World Cups at that point. It looks back at the stuff that was happening in terms of the politics, in terms of the games, and it has a lot of really good footage that I think they cleaned up very nicely. And I thought was a pretty interesting sports doc.
Yeah, definitely. Something that brings back something that faded into obscurity. It's always interesting to see those.
Janet Planet. I know you've been keeping up with this filmmaker, especially with their plays. Thumbs up, thumbs down on this one.
Thumbs up. Immediately gets adopted into the only child film canon. I think it really gets a lot right about being a lonely, weird kid. It's also set in the summer of 1991, so it's got a lot of those, like, for my era kind of nostalgia bit. There's just like a really interesting quality to it because it's essentially the story of an 11-year-old girl who, because she's so introverted and kind of shy and hesitant. Her whole life is essentially as in orbit of her mom, and her mom is trying to also live her own life. So it's this really interesting mother-daughter dynamic where they love each other clearly, but they're also not entirely the best thing for each other or providing everything for each other. And she's 11, right? So she's not a baby, but she's also not yet an adult. So I don't know. Watching her navigate the awkwardness of it and learning about life through her mom's ups and downs, I thought it was really well observed, really well acted. Annie Baker is a playwright who really leans into pregnant pauses, like those pauses where you can just feel the tension in the air and the weight of the moment. And this movie really carries that out, carries that idea from the stage to the screen in an excellent way.
Nice. The next one that we have is one of the 3-hour long dramas that we were getting back to back from the international releases last year. We had About Dry Grasses the last time we were on stream. This time it's Green Border, one that I think was supposed to be like it's a shortlisted film for the country, and the country said absolutely not with what it's covering. This is getting a limited run, and I believe maybe picked up by Movie Criterion. It's picked up by somebody.
I think Movie,
we'll have an online release as well. So I'm curious to catch this one very soon.
It's the new film from Agnieszka Holland as well, the Polish director who has made some really incredible films. And I've heard this one is so powerful. It's a refugee story about some of the refugees who sort of trapped between the border of Poland and I think it's Belarus. And my parents actually went to go see this at a film festival and
really
were profoundly moved by it. Yeah.
Damn. All right. Yep. Got the Mama Shevich and Papa Shevich stamp of approval.
Yep.
I'm gonna keep an eye out for it. Lord of the Rings coming back to theaters. We've had Shrek come back. The Spider-Man movies did incredible. I don't know how they were by you, but those were packed screenings. Lord of the Rings coming back too with the extended remastered edition. So if you're interested, keep an eye out for that. I am hoping to snatch a poster too. I want the Return of the King poster. That's been my favorite part of these getting released. So that's going to be out in theaters. But then over on streaming, before we get to the TV, probably the biggest release is the return of Jessica Alba. We went on her IMDb. This woman has been gone for a minute. Pre-pandemic, when she had her last big, at least US-centric movie, and she's coming back over here with this, I want to say it's like a thriller, where she plays a special forces person going undercover, and it will be out on Netflix. Should be okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to go on a whole Jessica Alba.
Oh, no. I don't know. I don't have much to say about Jessica Alba. I mean,
we'll come back to it once we see it.
Sin City was an important moment for me too.
Yes. Good luck, Chuck. For Profit. You may have put this one on here. It's coming out to VOD and digital. You know?
Yeah, I was wondering if you had any light to shed on this because it looks like religiously tinged, and that tends to be more your field than mine.
No, I've not heard of this thing, but it looks.
Okay. It's kind of a funny title.
For Profit,
I'll give them that.
That's pretty good. Check this one out. Coming
it's profit
online.
Like the profit, not profit like money. Get it? You get it?
Presumed Innocent. It's out on Apple TV Plus. We got the first couple of episodes. I think it's solid, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know if you caught any of it. It's pretty good. I haven't. Boy, Jake.
Yeah, it's my boy Jake, and I was a little disheartened because he's one of the few movie stars we have left that hasn't yet made that transition to TV, as far as I know.
It is a good one. It's a good one. Whole case, it's based off of the book that got adapted to a movie back in the day with Harrison Ford. Yeah. And this time around, it's Renata who plays his number one. She dies. So don't get too excited. Wow. She's the one who they're investigating, but because they may have had a relationship, he's presumed to maybe be innocent or maybe guilty, to be honest with you. I think it's been a really good start to it. The performances are really great. And he's fantastic in it. And everyone around it as well. Sarsgaard, all of them. Really good stuff.
I haven't seen the Harrison Ford movie. And sometimes my rule with these things is like, I got to watch the original before I watch an 8-hour attempt to capture the magic of the original. So I'll catch the Harrison Ford one and then I'll dive into this because I'm always interested in what Jake's up to.
Read the book. Camp Snoopy.
That's a tall task.
I got nothing more for Camp Snoopy. My next guest needs no introduction. We got some new ones from David Letterman. I always think he's able to get some really good interviews. I have really liked the format that he's had here. I think out of all the classic late night people. Him and our
Conan.
dude Conan, they become completely different perspectives in the way they approach it, but definitely something better than a coffee comedian
Yeah.
cars type stuff.
Well,
Always
that's
really
the
good
thing.
setups.
That's the thing, though, with both Conan and David Letterman, is they have so much experience and practice at the like 7-minute or 11-minute highlights interview that they have interviewing down to a science. So you give them like an hour to kick back and talk about whatever they want. They're
It's
gonna
over.
get a lot of good stuff out of it.
Yeah. So really good stuff there. Those have already started to premiere on Netflix. So moving on to our picks for the week.
Let's
If
do
you've
it.
got Mubi, they're charging you extra money, so they better at least have a really good movie that's out there. Monster. It
Yeah.
is one of my favorite movies from last year. I don't think Corietta's had a miss at all. This one floored me. I think it is fantastic. The less you know, the better, especially with the way that they tell the story. Give this one a watch. I would recommend it in theaters, but now that it's on a movie, make it worth your money over there. One that I had mentioned earlier was I Used to Be Funny. I think it was one of the best ones. I think it was my favorite out of South by from last year. Perfectly embodies the dramatic elements from a comedian who's really good at stand-up, just honestly one of the best improv people that we have out there as well, and mixing both of those genres into one in a really, really good and well-told story. I Used to Be Funny. Keep this one on your radar. I was going to recommend it for theaters. Man, it's out digitally. So
Yeah.
hopefully you guys can catch that one. And the next one, going off of Tribeca, this was one that I had seen in Tribeca last year, and it is now up on Paramount, or is going to be on Paramount. Let the Canary
Speaking
Sing.
of music
Yeah,
documentaries.
this was a pretty good one. Going through Cyndi Lauper's career, and I thought it was a really good way told in her voice, which is something you and I always look forward to. She's able to
Yeah.
cover some of the ups, the downs, and I thought it was a good recap of her life.
Definitely.
Those
Cyndi
my
Lauper's
picks.
been on my mind because I feel like there's a lot of Cyndi Lauper in Chapel Roan, and now everybody's talking about Chapel
Ooh,
Roan.
yeah, yo,
Yeah.
bro, she has blown up.
I know. I mentioned
Like
it, and then immediately she became.
incrementally
Yeah.
denying the
Crazy.
White House. And all right, what you got?
All right. You mentioned it in brief earlier, but I wanted to recommend Late Bloomers. Speaking of movies we enjoyed at South by Southwest last year, this is one of them. I thought a really cute sort of coming of age comedy about a woman in her 20s who sort of adopts an older Polish lady as they both go through rehabbing physical injuries together. The real reason to show up is the performance from Karen Gillan, who I think does sort of like millennial ennui really well. Like there's hints of her of what was that movie she did with Riley Stearns? Was it False? Duel.
No,
There's
dual.
hints
Yeah,
of her dual performance in here, but she's also got this really interesting physicality because her character breaks her hip, so she's like navigating the physical discomfort and challenge of that. I also connect to it because there's a lot of Polish in this movie, and a lot of the jokes are the places in which Karen Gillan doesn't understand the Polish that's being spoken, but as a Polish speaker, it's funny for me. So I don't know
nice.
if that's going to be everybody's experience with this movie, but I thought it was cute. My mom thought it was cute.
It's very cute. Very good.
Yeah. Speaking of cute, Humanist vampire seeking consenting suicidal person. This was a movie that premiered at TIFF last year, and I found this one to be really delightful. Shout out to Randy Jones, who described this one as Twilight for people on Zoloft. I think that's a pretty apt description. It reminded me a lot of the sort of like mid to late 2000s style of indie comedic drama in the vein of like, I don't know, like a Garden State or a Lars and the Real Girl. It might be a more apt comparison, where they have these sort of very silly qualities, but they're ultimately like very heartfelt and emotional, and just like have this kind of sweetness to them. Here you have the story of this vampire who doesn't want to, hurt anybody, and she is sipping on her little like blood packet, but afraid to kind of assume the full role of a vampire
Yeah.
when she meets a guy who is trying to end his life, and they kind of form a friendship and partnership of sorts. And I don't know, I thought it's a really creative take on the vampire subgenre, something that I hadn't quite seen before. It's very quirky, it's very fun. I'd highly recommend it.
Yeah, this is one of the standouts from that tip because I don't think I got to go to it, so this was like one of the ones that I
Yeah.
had access to. I can't remember, but I thought
Yeah,
this
it was
was
one of the ones we had screeners for.
she's a standout too. She's been coming out in a lot of stuff. She's an actress to look out for.
Definitely. And then my last recommendation is one that is opening in New York and LA this weekend and expanding over the next couple of weeks. It is the
Yup, yup.
new Yorgos Lanthimos movie, Kinds of Kindness. It's a triptych that has 3 stories within its larger story. It has Emma Stone, Jesse Plemons, Willem Dafoe, Margot Qualley, Hong Chow, Mamadou Athie, Joe Alwyn, Hunter Schafer, most of them playing multiple roles across the different stories. It is in many ways a return to the kind of aggressive, acidic movies that Yorgos Lanthimos burst onto the scene with. This is much more Dogtooth and the Lobster than it is Poor Things or The Favorite. It's not a movie that wants you to like it. It's not going to make a lot of effort to get you to like it or like its characters, but it's got this really comedic fable quality to it. And the acting is just phenomenal. The boy Jesse Plemons took home Best Actor out of Cannes for this movie, and
Nice.
he absolutely lives up to it. It shows his range, not just in his acting, but in his physical appearances as well. Emma Stone just continues her streak as our most daring, big time movie star with just how out there she is. It's really, really unexpected. It's the kind of movie where you'll be sitting there feeling like assaulted and confused for about 5 minutes and then have one of the biggest belly laughs of your week. Really, really enjoyed this one. Very curious to hear your thoughts about it. Feel like we should probably do an extended review after you get a chance to see it. So guys, look out for that on the channel and sometime soon, because Yorgos is always worth diving into.
I've been hearing people say that this is him back to his dog tooth roots. So I'm very excited. I wish I would have seen it already. I thought I was going to see it this Thursday. I still got to wait till
Yeah.
next week, but I am excited for that one. So I'm looking forward to that. Again, going back through it, Monster, worth watching in theaters, but it's at home on Mubi if you get the chance to see it. I used to be funny, worth watching in theaters, but it's at home on VOD, still worth it. And Let the Canary Sing, which we caught at last year's Tribeca, and you can catch on Paramount Plus while it is still alive.
Absolutely. My picks for the week are Late Bloomers, a really charming humanist comedy with Karen Gillan in a really funny role. The really delightful Humanist Vampire Seeking Consenting Suicidal Person, one of the best film titles of the year, and a really fun, quirky vampire story with a bit of sweetness to it too. And then finally, the acidic, uncomfortable, but deeply hilarious Kinds of Kindness, the latest film from Yorgos Lanthimos and his collaboration with Emma Stone, who is just so good in it.
Sick. A lot of good movies, bro. We are in the brink of it. July is not letting up. I
Summer
looked at
is
August.
here.
I'm like, we'll take a break in August. Nope. Back to back to
Nope.
back. Even Shyamalan moved up his movie. So, other than that, thank you all for watching this week's show. Probably a record breaker. I think.
mean, it's pushing it up there. How long was our
If
episode with Ewan? I don't think it was this long.
not,
Con one?
I think we can maybe break it if we talk. Nah, bro, I gotta go back. That's all for this week's show. You can find more from me at LME Movies on all social media, from Letterboxd to YouTube to all that good stuff. Zach, where can people find more from you?
Find more from me at Zshevich across social media, or at Multiplex Show, anywhere you find videos.
A reminder that you can listen to every episode of the Intercut podcast on iTunes, Anchor, Spotify, all of your favorite podcatchers. You can catch the live video here on youtube.com, where we go through the weekend must watch every Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. At some point in the week, we are going to give you the content that you need to catch you up on all the good stuff, from festivals to award shows to Broadway, all the good stuff. A big shout out to all the Intercuties who listen live, all the patrons, all the iTunes listeners who give us that 5-star review. We appreciate you. Did we chart anywhere?
Oh, we charted all over the place. We charted in Nigeria, in the Czech Republic, weirdly high in the Czech Republic this week. I thought y'all would be focused on the Euros. Singapore, Portugal, Poland, Turkey, South Africa, the Netherlands, we did pretty well. Norway, Mexico, Germany, Australia, Canada, and of course, right here in the United States of America.
Decent.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for checking this out. Don't forget to leave us a comment, drop a like, follow all the socials over in Intercut Pod. Check out the Intercut podcast over on Patreon, where for as little as a few bucks, you can get all of the updates, early episodes, all that good stuff, or even follow for free so that you can keep up with some of the updates that we give there. Same thing over on our YouTube memberships that you can find somewhere here on the platform where you can sign up, get your own custom emojis, and all that good stuff. We should be doing the Patreon hangout next week
Monday.
for June. And then just covering a lot of the other stuff that we'll be doing in terms of brackets leading up to our best of the year so far.
Yeah.
What are we at?
That's
200,
imminent.
300, something like that.
If there's
So we'll go-
something that we
we'll go move.
need to have seen before we make our best of the year so far lists,
Make a
leave
lot
it in a
of-
comment, shoot us an email, intercutpod@gmail.com, reach out to us on social. But we are putting together that best of 2024 so far. So if you think that something deserves to be on our list, advocate for it now.
Or even to be higher, let us know down below. Leave a dissertation. But until next time, keep watching movies. And remember, don't let joy or don't let anxiety get in the way of joy.
But they're one and the same.